So.
Yeah, I know. That'd be great.
I mean,
well,
I don't know how many I'll add, but
whatever.
2 or 3. My family. And
Well, you stopped your Facebook living heading home on Sundays.
Well,
I was a faithful follower of that.
Yeah, well, you were one of the few people who was actually up at that time.
By the way, Clink,
So,
the best monster. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and you know what? I kind of gotten addicted to the Bang now. And I'm trying
Bang?
each one of those because not all of them are good.
The cotton candy one's amazing.
I don't mind that one. I like the unicorn one?
I didn't try the unicorn one.
That's not bad. And the black cherry is probably my favorite.
Anyways, guys, welcome to a special edition of Simon Says. Today we have a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
How many monikers do you want me to use?
All of them. Just all of them. Go for a Danny, Daenerys.
Right. Yeah, that list won't be that long.
All the titles.
Won't be that long yet. We'll just start with Matt Bolick and... we can go through everything you want to go through as we talk, I guess.
Well, I mean one of the
DJ,
things,
cosplayer, actor.
Cosplayer, actor. Yeah, those are probably the top, I guess, as far as activist, somewhat.
Yes.
So we have a car wash that was planned for tomorrow that the rain has curtailed. So.
Ooh, well, let me know about the car wash. I would be more than happy to do
Well,
that.
if you follow Beard and Mustache Club of North Carolina,
I should follow that club.
You should be a member.
I should be a member. Yeah.
And in fact, we welcome men and women and less fortunate men. So anyone's welcome to join. So.
I remember at one point when I was definitely like growing out my beard, I started realizing it's actually a culture. Especially when you start putting in those hashtags on Instagram. So I started getting hit up from like different beard clubs. Hey, brother.
not just beard clubs, but you start getting hit up by beard product people too.
Oh yeah. You're like, hey,
try our
oil. Stuff. And like one guy's like, hey, brother, we saw that you have a beautiful beard, and I want you to know that we have a Southern chapter, and
that's right.
We want you to join our club. You seem to be a pretty cool dude.
Is every beard guy Macho Man?
Yes.
Apparently,
if you ask
John, hey, brother.
No, man. Like that's the way. Every time I see these messages,
that's all you think
on my Instagram message feed. I'm like, I'll read it in my head, and that's what I hear. Hey, brother. I'm like, yeah. Like,
so you just make that voice for every beard guy.
Every bearded man sounds like a combination of Randy, Macho Man Savage, and a guy that's probably at the Coca-Cola 600.
Okay.
So,
with a southern draw.
We're uncertain if John will be a member until maybe July, depending on the way the bet goes. But he'll be all right.
Yeah, no, actually, hopefully if Toronto wins. The NBA Finals.
Oh, you have a bet.
We have a bet beard for beard right now. So yeah, I know.
But since I've known you, your facial hair has gone through a lot of changes too. So
yeah,
I mean it's long, short, different.
It's gone through the gamut.
But have you decided that you look best with facial hair? That's the question.
Absolutely. Well, I've had a beard for 10 years. So
but have you gone 10 years without actually being bare?
No, he's gone barefaced.
I've gone barefaced purely based on accidental / whatever. It's one of those like you're trimming or you're I don't use guards when I trim.
Yeah.
So for me, like if
you should use guards.
You want to play with fire, buddy. Play with fire.
I'm trying. Yeah, I realize. Do not trim your beard when you're hungover and you have the shakes. But no, there's been
without a guard if you want to keep a certain length.
I know, but I was just trying to go for like little strays here and there, and I'm not really trying to.
And all
of
a sudden,
I know where just like something happens, or a phone call, and like I'm like, okay, well, it's got to go.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where you can't even trim it down to the point. You just have to just get rid of it.
Yeah. But you get your 3-day in 3 days, and then you just look like a bum for about a week, and then it starts to come in, and you're okay. Yeah.
Well, what was I posted that meme the other day? It says that beards are men's push-up bras.
Yeah, and I showed a lot of people that one because, in honesty, it's the truth.
100%.
As far as that meme goes, you look at the faces of those guys without facial hair, and then with, and they look 1,000 times
better. The James
better.
Harden without a beard picture is like, I understand why people do this.
Well, even if you look at Jason Momoa, part of his whole character is his facial hair, and he's shaved, but. You look at him, you're like, that's not even the same guy.
That's the guy on Baywatch. That's not Khal Drogo.
Yeah, he lost 20%.
That's where he started.
Yeah, he lost 20% of his masculinity, I think, with the no facial hair.
Yeah,
it just doesn't look like the same guy.
Some people just look good with beards, and
Well, for sure.
I've always said, with great beard comes great responsibility.
That goes across the board.
So it just. For those of you who are blessed with the genes to have a good beard. You should have it at all times. So.
Or at least try. I mean, there's always guys and they're like, man, I wish I had a beard. I was like, well, just fucking ignore your face for a certain amount of time and you'll have a beard.
You'll get there.
Unless you have like the Native American genes that don't necessarily grow much facial hair, or Asian genes that don't grow necessarily much facial hair. But otherwise, if you ignore your face long enough, you're gonna have hair on it. I mean, it's just the truth.
Yeah. Now, see, when I grew up, my beard out.
What is out?
Well, for me, it was down to like just about here. I mean,
that's a good.
And for the people who can't see that,
right? I forget we're radio and
this is a podcast. For those of you who can't see what I visually, it was about close to 6 inches.
Yeah.
So like, and I trimmed it for my mom. On her birthday, she goes, I'm like, what would you want? What do you want for your birthday?
Oh, you walked into that one.
I walked in and like, what would you like? I'd like to see my son's face. And I'm like, fuck.
God, it's over now.
Well, all right. And I haven't grown it back that length since. It was just.
Well, that's kind of one of those things where my mom kind of accepted, this is who I am. Like at 18, when I started getting tattoos, she was just like, okay, I'm going to have a tattooed son. So the facial hair was okay. I'm going to have a bearded son.
See, the tattoos thing with my mom, it was basically, I told her, I'm getting a tattoo. She goes, do you want to stay in the will? I'm like, shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was like that.
She's
well,
Catholic.
She went straight nuclear.
Catholic, body's a temple. I'm like, Mom, your son's a pagan.
Yeah, but one of the best.
I'm a heathen, agnostic, atheist, like whatever.
Nobody asked how the Catholic Church got the art in there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. We go to another meme. There's several memes. It's like the body is a temple, and then there's several different Catholic Church pictures of many paintings in the temple of God. So you're supposed to decorate the temple if you want to go that
Concerning
route.
One of your careers, can you talk about what you were doing earlier this week?
Well, you understand NDAs, but for people who listen don't know what an NDA is, a non-disclosure agreement, where basically when you go on a set, you sign a piece of paper that says you can't. Yeah. Well, I think there's leeway depending on.
Can you say where you were recording?
Well, let's see, what day is this? This is Friday. So Tuesday, I was in Charleston for a second episode on an HBO show that's coming up in the fall.
So that's pseudo recurring, which is pretty cool.
That's what I consider it, because I even talked to the casting folks and whatever. And it was when you do, this was a featured background, but it's still background, so they don't tell you a whole lot. Like even on some productions, even principals don't get your script until day before sometimes. But anyway, some productions seem to be a little more tight gripped on what you can talk about, and others seem like it's okay. I don't know how okay it is. So
right.
It's a new show coming out in the fall. This guy has had several shows on HBO before. It's just another one of his shows.
Shot in the area.
Shot in Charleston, right. So if you figure that out, it's pretty easy enough, and it's a comedy. So this is, a recurring role. So far, no lines, but you always have that hope, and you always read about background guys or people who, the director just pulls up, or somebody says, hey, I need you to say this or do this, and all of a sudden you become more than just a background, and you become maybe a recurring role. So anyway, yes, this is a recurring role, and it's the first time in my in front of the camera career I actually get to be a DJ. So that was the exciting part for me. Like anytime, I see listings for things that I know I'm going to be good for. Big scary guy, got it. Big tattooed guy, got it. Bearded guy, got it. I apply for all that kind of stuff. But this was for a DJ with their own equipment. I was like, yeah,
done.
Well, but the problem is, let's back it up a little bit, because the problem is I don't look like your typical DJ,
that's your DJ voice,
not the big money Ibiza DJs that travel around.
Right. I don't look like Avicii, RIP, but when you think about castings, they have an idea in their head of what the general population would think something like that looks like, and I don't look like a DJ. However, I have a background in the goth industrial scene, and that's what this is. It's like a underground goth rave DJ. So, I bring out my best like goth attire and stuff, and they're like, perfect. And I even bring stuff on the first day, and wardrobe is like, and I go put stuff on. I say, I have my own stuff, so I go put stuff on. I come out of the tent, they go, is that all your own stuff? And I go, yeah. And they go, okay, great. We don't need to change or add anything. You're great. So,
wow, you did it yourself. You brought everything you need. Thank you so much.
Right.
I don't have to work now.
Right. Well, and apparently, it was. You never know sometimes, and sometimes I feel like some of these casting agencies bullshit you a little bit because they want to build you up. But they did tell me I was like one of 5 out of a director's pick, so it makes you feel special.
Right.
Like, they like me more than somebody else, and that's cool. But just the fact that it is recurring, and I did get told Tuesday that the show's been picked up for season 2 already.
That's fantastic.
That's quick.
So, with it not even been aired yet.
Well, given what I think it is,
again,
what we talk about is not what he talks about.
I'm implying I was pretending like I didn't know already.
Yeah, you can figure it out without me having to say anything, and I didn't divulge anything.
You said nothing about it.
Yeah,
exactly. So.
Is where it was, and it's an HBO show, and
there have been commercials for the show.
Sure.
One of them after the last several episodes of Game of Thrones. Yeah. It looks terrifically funny.
Oh, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be really funny. You can look on IMDb and figure it out. It's not that hard for people who really want to dig stuff up. A couple things though. So yeah, they did say that was going to be picked up for a second season. Also, it's kind of cool that. The Walking Dead universe as the seasons go, it just gets bigger and bigger. So I was on season 6, 2 episodes, season 6, got blown up by Daryl with an RPG.
What were you playing in that?
Well, we hashtagged and we called it the First Saviors. It was the first appearance of the Saviors in the show. It was the first mention of Negan in the show. So at the time when season 6 happened, and it was episode 8 and 9, so 8 brings you into a 2-month cliffhanger until it comes back in February. So, and obviously they were really tight-lipped about that. I couldn't say anything when I got the gig. And, once it came out and people saw it, it was like, I know that guy. And then for 2 months, it was like I got hounded, like, what happens? I'm like, I can't tell you. You're going to have to watch in February. But anyway, so the Walking Dead universe, like all those characters and all those actors, have gone on into other things. So I show up on set on Tuesday, and a decent character role actor from Walking Dead with plenty of lines and everything is on set. I'm like, hey, what's up? And he's like, oh, it's weird to, you'll be able to see the show and go, okay, that guy was on Walking Dead. Not that I had lines, but this guy was on Walking Dead, had plenty of lines and had an epic death as well. So I don't know, it's just kind of funny, especially since a lot of those actors, if they're kind of local to Atlanta area because of Walking Dead, to me, it's kind of a little bit weird to see them outside of Atlanta.
Right.
But they're expanding just like anybody else and moving on with their careers.
Mm-hmm. And now you were not in Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. Is that correct?
Well, which one is
that's
Welcome
the second one? I think is the first one with remake, The Rock and Karen Gillan.
So I was in it,
quote unquote sequel.
Yes.
But sort of, not really reboot, sequel, whatever. I was in it. I was on set for a week. And if you don't blink at a certain scene, you'll see me.
It's when they're in the
bazaar, right?
Yes, and the first time bread is his weakness gets him, I think.
Yeah, and I'm in that scene very minimally. And the funny thing is, we shot that scene for a better part of a whole 10-hour day. And I'm right there. And to go to the movie, he's like, where am I? And that's what you got to accept when you do that.
How'd you edit it perfectly to the point where you can barely not see it?
Yeah, the funny thing is, on that set and on other sets I've been on to before, I've been told that I have a great look. I'm very charactery, but if I'm too face forward in a scene, I take away from what they're actually trying to shoot. So, especially on that set, I was in something.
These are true things.
The assistant director was like, you got to back up. All I can see is you. You got to back up. And it's back up to where you don't see me. It's deep background.
So when you were filming that, did you get a chance to meet The Rock and
yeah.
Kevin Hart and Jack Black?
Yeah, for sure.
Karen Gillan.
And Karen.
Well, the weird part is, for people who aren't in the industry, I can tell you, if you're trying to get in the industry, it's just like everything else. You kind of have to take anything you get to get your foot in the door. But they pretty much tell background, generally on any set, do not talk to the principal actors unless they talk to you. Mm-hmm. And if they open the door, then sure, you're welcome to the conversation. But they always try to remind you that, everyone's here working. They're trying to focus on...
It's a job.
It's a job. They're trying to focus on their character, their lines, everything that they're supposed to do to make that magic happen. So, and one of the best descriptions I heard recently about background was that, background is the living furniture. of a show or a movie. Like without, you can make these movies with your principal characters, but if you're trying to make something like that has a big scene with people in it, you can't do it without background. Mm-hmm. So there's been a lot of talk. Well, it's a long road to go down with Georgia, but just about how people who aren't principals that are necessary, that they need to make a show or movie work, haven't always been treated the best. So that's been a part of conversation lately that, let's make sure we take care of our background as well. Because, and two, everybody got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
When my first funny thing that I found out about the guy who plays Shane on Walking Dead,
John Barenthal.
John Barenthal, Law and Order.
Yeah, Criminal Intent.
I mean, like,
how does it always come back to that freaking show?
Because I
brings it all the way back to that.
Always does. Somehow it's a circle.
He was a backyard wrestler with stealing steroids.
That's right. And he had a couple of lines, and man, it was bad. Like if you watch, it's like, wow. I don't know if that was really his accent.
Fast forward
at the time.
Fast forward how long now? He's a Punisher, and he
was an accountant, which he was very good in. He's in a movie upcoming. He was in Wind River, which is a fantastic movie that probably nobody's seen, but he was really good in that.
Yeah, I think he's good. I think he's
in Sicario too.
I think he's very much a character actor.
Yes.
Like, there's some people, I mean, when you're around Kevin Hart, you realize that Kevin Hart's Kevin Hart. He's not going to...
Is he basically playing himself?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's just who he is. And part of the cool thing about being on set with somebody like that, with that much talent, I think, and charisma and creativity, because generally, when you watch a movie, you don't realize that a lot of those scenes have been shot maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe 20 times until the director gets what he wants. And especially with Jake Katzen with Jumanji, like, he's one of those guys who's like, okay, that was great, let's do one more. Okay, that was great, let's do one more. So you're doing one more 15 times. But
co-writer of Force Awakens.
That was Jake Katzen?
Yeah. Jake and his dad Lawrence.
Okay. Jake's, he knows what he wants. I try to be a student all the time when I'm on set and watch and actors, directors. I try to absorb as much as I can, so that I'm better at what I do in the future. And Jake, it's obvious, you have your dialogue, you have everything there, but because you have somebody like Kevin Hart, who is a comedic, I don't know, genius, but good at his craft. When you have your first take, and they've all read the script, they all know what they're supposed to say. You do your first take, that's good. You do your second take, and Kevin gets a little better.
Yeah.
And then you do your third take, and he's ad-libbing.
Yeah, he gets to ad-lib and kind of do his own thing.
It gets better. And then by the fourth or fifth take, Kevin's like, just keep rolling. And he'll roll off stuff that the characters around him are setting him up for. And he'll just roll stuff off. And it's like when you watch the movie, the final cut, you realize that the last take was probably the one they used.
The one they're abusing.
Because it was the best one. Yeah. Because you got into a groove with what you were doing. And it may not have been what the script was.
That's the thing, like with the comedic actors like that, I'm pretty sure it's kind of hard to sometimes stay in character. During that, you're like, oh, God, try not to crack up. Try not to laugh.
Yeah, well, here's the problem, too. That everyone around you trying to stay. I thought you were talking about the character themselves.
Everyone around them, because I was watching the after show for Barry, the episode when
which is amazing. Yeah.
The fight.
No. The bald guy. What's his name? The character's name. Oh my God. Why am I drawing a blank?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, the hitman that he's kind of buddies with.
Yeah, the buddies in
Hank.
They're doing that scene when they're in the desert and he's training them or whatever, and he's trying to give his goodbye, and he gives them the pin or whatever, and he's just making up these lines. And every time you see Barry, actor, brain, not working today.
Same with me from SNL.
Bill Hader?
Bill Hader. Yeah. Every time you see Bill Hader turn his face,
you can tell he's going to lose it.
No, he's actually laughing. He has to turn his head because he's just like, okay, this shit's hilarious. So like they were actually specifically talking about that during their making of the episode. Like when you saw Barry's head turn, he's laughing his ass off.
Well, that was what I have always loved Hader. I've always been an SNL fan. I grew up with it, and Hader stood out for me because you could tell that he was genuine. When things were funny, it was hard for him
to hold it back. Yeah.
Oh yeah. If you watch Stefan character, I mean,
that's basically what it is.
But his agenda, I think, with Stefan was to try to break everybody else, but in the process, he usually broke himself.
Yeah.
Well, what the deal was with that, and on the 50th anniversary or whatever, when he brought Stefan back, and they would kind of go over the skit, but his writing partner was the one who would hold up the cue cards, and he knew he would always change something, and he would add it on. So he'd try and bust headers, he's trying to bust everybody else, and that was the one where going to this, blah blah blah, and Dan Cortese.
Yeah.
But he added Dan Cortese to the end of each one of them, and you could see Header read ahead to where that's happening and already started losing it before he got to the punchline.
Right.
Yeah, no, because when you watch it, Bill Hader, I don't even know how we're talking about Bill Hader, but when you watch his, Conan O'Brien does a gaming segment where he plays a video game for the first time and he plays different people. And he does one with Bill Hader and you're playing God of War on PS4. And you can just tell that he's genuinely entertained. He's laughing his ass off. He has a sense of humor that just,
that's who he really
somewhat
is.
Infectious. That's who he is. Yeah. So, I mean, when you said when you're working with a guy like Kevin Hart and then working also with a guy like Jack Black.
Well, another genius.
Genius comedian / everything. He's an everyman. Musician / comedian / actor, whatever. One
of the things you find, did you have a question? Because I was going to go straight to Jack Black.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, I was actually
okay. Well, one of the things about him that you realize when you're on set is he doesn't just know his character and his lines. He knows everybody else's. Mm-hmm. So when you're when you're doing takes and maybe somebody slips on a line or they're not sure, whatever, Jack's the first one to go, no, you say this, blah 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 blah, and then I go do this and I look at you and I go blah blah blah. He knows everybody's parts. He knows everything. Like he is, I think that I would call him a master of the craft. Like even if it's not his project, because it's not, he's just a character, but he knows like what everybody else is supposed to be doing in the scene. Like he'll be the first one to go, oh no, you do this. If somebody messes up or if they call for a line, he'll be the first one. No, you say this or whatever. He was on top of it. Yeah. And the cool thing about Jack, too, is like out of all those people, he would be the first one who would interact with the rest of us, the background guys.
Yeah. He just seems like that type of person.
Because he doesn't have any, I don't think that his celebrity mind works like that, like a celebrity's does, I guess. Yeah, if you're like, I'm hired on the plane or whatever. He's just a cool guy and he wants to hang out. So many times when we were cutting or whatever, he would just turn around and cut up with people. Yeah. And at one point, there's a scene that we shot. We're in this fortress. It's big and cold, and everybody's in this furry thing or whatever. We all have weapons. Between one of the takes, one of the girls that was part of my group had like its weapon, and she sat down and she started to like play guitar on her weapon. Fucking Jack comes up, he sees her, and he comes up and just like starts air guitaring with her, and they're like battling guitar, and everybody's watching and everybody's entertained, and he's just like like doing Jack Black, but I don't think that's a character. That's who he is. That's who he is, man. And he just saw her and he's like, I'm gonna play guitar with her, and he just cuts up.
Yeah, he just cuts up on set. He did that one thing with Fallon where he had the saxophone piano electric thingy. That's a toy, and he just did that whole thing with the roots and everything. That's him being him. He's not acting. That's natural.
I never really got. I mean, I recognize that he's really talented and he does it, but I never really connected with him as his acting until watching Jumanji and his playing the teenage girl, and it's like he is fantastic. I mean, he nails like all. It's like the way that the girl played the character in the before and after, and the way that he did. It's like, no, that's the same person. She's just wearing a middle-aged fat body.
That was the problem I had with Shazam. Actually, I didn't think
Billy,
the kid, when he transformed into Shazam. Yeah, no,
the big man.
Yeah, I don't think it wasn't the same character.
Well, and that's the thing is
he went from being a kid who's kind of I was kind of like a dick to just being a bro, and like I don't know,
it's not the same person.
It's not the same person at all. Like he's all laughy, fun, bro-ish, and then you're like, wait a second.
He wouldn't be that as morose still as the kid, but he was.
Yeah, because for example, like in Big, when Tom Hanks,
Big was that kid.
He was that kid. So that's my biggest complaint about Shazam was that whole little. That disconnect between the two characters, it wasn't believable. It wasn't believable. Being the same person. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. You have The Rock and Kevin Hart with these huge personalities and riding all of this wave. And it's like Jack Black may have been better than both of them. Right. It was just fantastic.
He was better than both of them. I thought.
It was really good.
Going into that movie, I didn't think I was going to actually like it, and then I loved it. So I was just like,
it had the thing about it is it had everything. In a classic sort of action adventure movie way, because it had all the right elements and it was written right, and it kept you on the edge of your seat and they talked about it paid homage to the original. So they didn't want anybody to feel like they were jacking it or hijacking it or stealing it or trying to make it better. It was an homage. It was here we are this many years later, and Jumanji hasn't changed. Yeah. It's just we've got different people in it now.
Maybe they possibly brought you back for the sequel.
Well, I thought we talked about that. Did we not? Well, we didn't talk about that.
Well, they're not necessarily that.
Not necessarily talking about
that
part.
Since he is.
Yeah.
But we don't know. But they smashed the video game, so we don't know necessarily what the sequel motif is.
Speaking of video games, and gosh, it's hard to say how much you can say. Yes, I was in Atlanta filming a couple months ago for about 5 weeks, so you might not have seen me in the first Jumanji, but you might definitely see me in the second one.
Nice.
Anyway, I'm
sorry to interrupt here, but to get to things that you actually can talk about. So what was the transition of like, hey, I want to be an actor. How do I get into the roles? What was the beginning parts of that to where you first got your first background featured extra opportunity to be seen on something?
Well, actually,
what led up to Walking Dead?
What?
We can do the simple version of that, or we can do a longer version of it.
Long version,
fine. A longer version.
Well, okay, so longer version. For whatever reason, I don't know why. I've always liked to be in front of people, like in a performer type of way, I guess. And my mom will tell you, like at a very young age, I was the one that would get up in front of people and sing or dance or whatever, just to get attention. And when I was in youth group at church, we'd have productions, and at 12 or 13, I did a lip sync dance to Weird Al Yankovic's "Eat It," dressed up as Michael Jackson but white. And there's a photo of that somewhere, and maybe I could find it. My mom could probably find it.
Gold.
Yeah. at some point that might be gold.
Thumbnail for this podcast.
Maybe not. But then I went on into like junior high, and I was interested in like theater, and I did like I don't know, we did Guys and Dolls. We did, things, those basic like junior high productions. We did I did those kind of things. And then once I got into high school, I was kind of more into broadcasting. And my senior year, I was president of the broadcast club in high school. So, and we had a production that we would do every morning during homeroom, like a newscast that was 5 minutes long and with video and audio and everything that was projected in the classrooms. So, I always wanted to do that. I was in a band in high school, and we did rock covers. We were in the talent show doing Van Halen's Jump. It was terrible. But I was a bass player. I started playing upright bass in 6th grade and moved on into like bass guitar and all that stuff in high school. So I was always in front of people. And then I guess once I got a chance to DJ at a club, I was always the kid that brought the records to the parties. When we had parties, I was the kid that had all the records. And then I try to make another long story short. I used to hang out at the Milestone a lot. The guys that owned the Milestone were looking for a bigger venue to put bigger bands in. There was a building down the street that was a closed gay club. The people who owned it said, you can get it for this amount of money, which is nothing. So the Pterodactyl was born. And in 87. And they were like, well, what do we do on these days when we don't have bands, or like when the bands are done at 11? And like, you have a DJ. I've got all those records. And they're like, okay. Having never DJed like in a club like that ever, 87 to 91, I was DJing at the Pterodactyl. So the band transitioned from being wanting to be in a band or whatever into DJing. And then I just I didn't pursue. I don't think I really knew how to. In the 90s, I wasn't sure about how to get into Hollywood, because that's what it seemed like. I'm in North Carolina. Yeah. How am I going to get to Hollywood in California? It's not going to happen. Fast forward to 2010, I get hit on my motorcycle. My motorcycle attorney asked me 2 years after we're done with that if I would do a testimonial for his business. And that still runs today on Spectrum News.
I've seen it.
5 years later.
I've seen that.
Well, the weird part is I'll get random text or random messages on Facebook from random people that I haven't talked to. I just saw you on TV on this motorcycle commercial. I was like, yeah, we shot that like 5 years ago. So that was the beginning of reoccurring with TV, I guess. And once that started to air, I had a lot of people tell me, wow, you look good and sound good on TV. You should maybe look into this. And a friend of mine who had done a lot of background work and still works now, sent me a casting email and said, "Hey, this casting agent's looking for bikers. You should put in for it." And I did, and 2 days later, on a Sunday night when I'm at work DJing, I get an email, just send me an email, "Hey, you're booked for The Walking Dead. Be here tomorrow for a fitting." And I freak out. I freak out. First thing I ever apply for, and it's a show that I love. Like I was on the comics before the show started. Like I was deep in the show before season 6. So
big issue of Walking Dead out this week, by the way.
Well, yeah, I was
can't talk about it, but
that too. But yeah, if you saw last month,
people know.
People know. Yeah, you already know. It was leading up to that anyway. I don't know if we were talking about that eventually, but yes. Anyway, so that happened, and I don't know. I feel like I just got lucky because I had heard that 75 guys applied for it, and it was 8 that they picked. And I just had the right look, or I had something they liked. And fortunate for me, it was a pivotal scene and time frame in the show when it had the most people watching it, I think, at any point in time.
Its peak.
Yeah. Season 6 was its peak, I think, because after Negan did what he did in the beginning of 7, they lost.
They lost a lot of viewers on that show, actually. Yeah.
So I did that. It was huge. People saw me, and then I said, well, maybe this is a thing. So I applied for Vampire Diaries for a biker. I get it. I apply for the next thing. I get it. I just start. The door starts opening. So I think I've always said if a door opens, you got to walk through it. You take the opportunities that are there and investigate and see what it can be. Mm-hmm. At this point, famous, no, locally, possibly just because of the, the commercial, but, I'm learning. Like every time you're on set, every time you do anything, you learn a little more about where you want to go, what you want to do. I think I'm very good at being a character. So I think it's just a matter of time before they're going to start calling me as opposed to me chasing stuff down. And with North Carolina and Georgia being right to work states, there's a big thing right now with, people who are, I could be SAG once I got on a SAG production, but there are a lot of people like, why would you go SAG if you don't, then you're kind of, once you hit SAG, then you're outside of the realm of background, then you're looking at principal roles, and then you've hit a larger ocean of people. So right now for me, I just call it baby steps.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. Is it paying bills? No. Sometimes it costs me more than what I make. However, I think everything leads to the next thing, and it's all about networking. I just went to there's an HBO show that I'm on that I haven't done 2 scenes for. While I was on set Tuesday, I booked another HBO show that I'm going to film on next week with an actor who was directing and producing this show that I've wanted to work with that guy. So the minute I showed up for the fitting, there's another HBO show that I love that I've been wanting to get on. This casting agent cast that show as well. And I've put in for a couple of things and I didn't get it for that show. I walk in and the casting agent is there and she goes, "How did we not hire you for this or that?" I was like, I don't know, because I put in for it. And one specific role this past week, and she was like, wow, well, now that I've seen you in person, and now I know who you are, now I know what you're good for. So, boom, it doesn't matter at that point for me what I'm doing next week on that show. That's cool. But now it's opened a door for somebody else to go, hey, this guy is great for this or that. Mm-hmm. So that's how I see the process. Like, and then and every time you're on set, you meet people, you make contacts, networking is, I think, so important in this business as well, because the more people who know who you are and what you have to offer, the more possibility that somebody's going to remember you and go, this guy would be perfect for that.
Yeah.
So, did that anscer the question? Was the long version?
No, that's exactly what I was expecting.
That was a long version. I mean, I think it's hard. I'm realizing too that there's, in this business, if you're not coattails, there's plenty of that. If you're not that, and if you're not already financially stable, it makes it pretty hard, because you have to have the freedom to get a call today to go somewhere tomorrow to be in a fitting or an audition or on set. Most people can't do that. That's where I feel like, the DJing helps me out, because that kind of pays the bills on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it leaves the rest of my week open to go to auditions, to go to fittings, to go to set, to do all those kind of things. And fortunately, the places I work, DJing-wise, they are flexible with me and say, hey, that's cool, and as long as you got somebody to cover it, that's cool. So they've been supportive as well, the places I work. So I'm fortunate for that. So I don't know. Will it ever be something? I have no idea. I feel like I'm at my age, I'm hitting the upper echelon of the age group. I play younger, which is good. I definitely can play younger than my age is, which will help me in the long run. Because I've always said, once I hit 60, I'm just gonna let the beard go gray, and I'm just gonna be 60. I'll play 60 plus. This is when they're looking for age groups, I'm 60 plus. But prior to that, I'm gonna just put in and say, hey, you look at me and you decide how old I am.
So when you're looking for roles, are you scouring the internet, or is there certain websites or whatever that you?
Yeah, the thing is, you can join email groups. Mm-hmm. You can join on Facebook. Most casting agencies have their own postings on their own group on Facebook, so you can join all of those. Mm-hmm. And it's a grind every day. You're looking at whatever somebody's posting. Actors Access is a big one that's nationwide, that you can put specifically what you look like and what you would be good for, and then it generates it sends you the ones that you would be good for in your age range and your look and all that stuff. So I get daily emails on roles. And then I can decide if I want to apply for them or not. Mm-hmm. And I'm at the point now where I want to do work with projects that I want to be associated with. It's hard for me to just take a regular old background role for looks like a cattle call for 100 people. It's hard for me to do that because of the experience I've had on set, where I look too character-y. Like, if I'm just a group of people, you're going to see me before you see 50 other people, because I'm just noticeable. So I try to go for things that are a little more featured, that aren't just background, unless it's a project that I want to work on, being like produced by somebody I want to work with, an actor that I would like to work with, that I can be a student on and watch them on set and call any of the things that they do.
How much of that information do you get in that information? Like, does it just say like the production company? Does it get more specific, or how?
It depends on the posting. Okay. Generally, you're not going to know who the actors are, but that's where your detective work goes in. Just like I said, IMDb. Yep. You say, well, this is, base it on this and base it on that. Looks at, okay, well, that's what it is. It's not that hard, especially if it's something that's going to be a major production.
And other friends in the industry, you can say, hey, this is the thing that's shooting over here. Do you have an idea what it is?
Right, and that's part of the making contacts and thing is I have several different like group texts that where two of the guys that worked on Walking Dead with me, we worked on Homicide Hunter together. Anytime any of us.
You have a line on that?
Say it again.
Did you have a line in that one?
Homicide Hunter, I had like 5 or 6 lines. Yeah. Now, not everybody has ID channel, and honestly, here's how it happened. I got cast as a biker, and I just started asking questions. Well, what is it? What is the role? What is there? What is going on? Blah blah blah. We build back and forth, and they said, we'll have this and that. And I said, well, I'd love to be the leader of the Hells Angels on the TV show. And she goes, okay. And I said, does it have any lines? She said, like 4 or 5. I said, well, okay, let me take that. And it's been the thing I got paid the most for, and I felt like a star because I got a little bit of a star treatment, because that's how it happens. Like, once you go from background to lines and whatever, even if you're a stand-in, you kind of get treated like the principals, so it's a little bit different. But yes, just because it's a cable show, I don't care. Give me anything where I can build, because for that I can build a reel on, and that's really important when you apply for stuff, because casting agents like to see and hear what you look like, what you sound like on screen, and there's nothing more valuable than to have something like that you can show them and say, here's what I look like and sound like on screen, so now you know. And so yeah, that's part of my reel. And anything with lines, I just put in for a couple of things that said, supporting role, feature role, anything like that is better than just a cattle call.
Now, as you're going through in the acting, you also cosplay. When was the transition to that? Have you always cosplayed some, or what got into that?
I think that again, as a kid, Like, there's a photo my mom has of me, like when you were in school and you had dress up day. There's a picture of me when I was probably 10 to 12 sitting outside, and my mom's putting like these pigtails in my hair, and I do like a type of Kiss makeup on dress up day. And I grew up in the new wave era. I loved new wave music. But my older cousins introduced me to Kiss when I was like 8, so I think I've always had that inside me too, as far as dressing up. The first time that I ever like decided that I was going to dress as a character was Captain Spaulding, because I love Rob Zombie and his music and his movies and whatever. And I don't know what drove me to do Spaulding once, but that kind of opened the gate to other things. Like, I think that was 05, 06 when I did that. And then, I didn't know the cosplay was a thing back then. It was not a thing. And it just kind of started to roll, and I started to be interested in it. And, friends of mine that were involved in it, I went, when you, again, it's the same kind of thing where you have to have a little extra coin to just throw at that kind of thing. Because, yes, you can.
Cosplaying is not cheap.
Well,
for the most part,
it can be. That's the thing is, you can.
If you want to do it well.
Well, exactly. Well, that's the thing is, I don't like to do anything halfway.
Exactly.
If I'm going to do it, I'm going to go as far as possible with it, because I like attention. I don't want to be just a shitty whatever I'm dressed up as. Like, people look at you. I didn't put much work or time into that.
You want people to take photos with you.
Which, yeah.
Matt and I have been in different different places at the same time without actually knowing each other. But the first time I actually had contact with you, but I still didn't know you, was when you had dressed up from Fury Road. Mad Max Fury Road, and I saw you at and what the character was
Immortan Joe.
Immortan Joe,
yeah,
Immortan Joe, and I saw you on my friends' Facebook and Instagram as you're spraying them in the face.
Matt,
yes, and Van Davis and a couple other people that you had sprayed in the face with it as going the thing as they're
witness me,
and going through, and that was a fantastic costume.
Well, and again, I try to do things that. I'm 6'3" and 260. I can't be Spider-Man. So, well, let me take that back.
Spider-Ham. Italian Spider-Man.
It's a big thing. It's a big thing in the cosplay community about not body shaming. So, sure, I could be Spider-Man. Can I be a believable Spider-Man? No. So I try to go with characters that I can be believable with. And although Immortan Joe didn't have a beard, I could hide the beard with the face mask. So, there's nothing like bobby pins to hide a beard. So anyway, I look at things that inspire me to be, hey, I'd love to dress up like that character. And I've always been more of a bad guy kind of guy. I mean, superheroes are great, but I've always been the bad guy fan. So
they always have the best costumes.
They always have the best costumes. They always die, but I've always had a dark side that goes along with the goth thing and everything. It's just, it's what I'm attracted to. Halloween was always my favorite holiday ever. Like every year, like, when you watch Nightmare Before Christmas, it's only 364 days of Halloween we have to prepper. It's like, Halloween was last night, but now we got, we only have this many days till next year. Ready. So, I loved the original Mad Max movies. I was excited to see the new one, and when Immortan Joe was on screen, I was like, that guy,
perfect.
Man,
the voice, everything was just
I can do that, So I set a course to try to do the best costume I could, and did my investigation and looked at a lot of YouTube how-to videos, like with the plastic chest piece and back piece and makeup and wigs and all of that. I'm just not going to do something halfway. And it wasn't perfect. It wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it was pretty damn good. So,
it was good.
Yeah.
And then that led into like a year or so or 2 years later as Taserface.
Yeah.
Which Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 comes out in May, and HeroesCon, which is next week here in Charlotte, is in usually Father's Day weekend. So about 10 weeks, maybe 6. No, actually, no, May. So about 8 weeks, 7-8 weeks. And you dressed up as Taserface. So what was the process of preparing for that and getting what you needed to do, which was obviously very compressed than otherwise?
Right. Well, again, it was a matter of, I love the first Guardians movie. I go see the second one. out comes Taserface, and I'm like, that guy. I can cosplay that guy. He's got long beard. He's got it's perfect. I can cosplay that. So then, you just start, and honestly, having done, it's just like acting or anything else. Having done a couple before, you already have kind of an idea of what you need to do to get to from point A to point Z. So I knew how to use some of the easy products to make a metal thing that's not metal look metal or whatever. I have a friend that's in town that does latex. I was like, hey, I have this idea. And she was like, fantastic, we can do that. And so she helped me make the mask, and it was pretty simple because we used a Freddy Krueger as a base. And then if you look at it, you can see the nose is Krueger. It's hard to hide a Freddy Krueger nose. But, she turned it into a Taserface mask, and I had to shave the sides of my beard, and I was like burnt. I videotaped it, like, oh no, yeah. But I let it grow, and so yeah, I don't know if we need to finish the part of this, but so 8 weeks basically is what I had, and it came together, and I did the Heroes Con costume contest, and I feel like I won overwhelmingly, like crowd response, because you got 200 kids or adults as well, all put a lot of time and effort into all their costumes, and they're fantastic costumes. And I've also kind of said with the cosplay stuff, if you want to do something that's going to be a possible like winner, there's a few things you have to think about. There are words, and I keep them in my mind when I think about it. Like, it has to be relative. Like, you can do something that, but if people don't know about it, the crowd response might not be great. Like, I'm not sure who that is. Like, there's 1,000 Spider-Mans, but Spider-Man costume doesn't change very much. It's what it is. It has to be recognizable. Like, I know who that character is, and you need to be what did I say? Relevant, recognizable. And there was another one. I don't know. Recent. Sorry, that's the other R.
Yeah, recent.
That was the other R word. So we were right on top of that movie having just come out. So it's like geeks have seen it. You already know that. You already know comic book fans have seen it. It's been out for 2 months. They saw it. So you're a character that has just come out in the movies, and people are like, "Holy shit!" You're
not going to be seeing too many Taser.
And that's the thing too, is I like to do cosplays that you're not going to see a lot of. Like I said, you're going to see 40 Spider-Mans at Heroes Con. You're not going to see many Taser faces.
Yeah, you're not going to see a lot of Morton Joes either. So
yeah, but I did research, and there were plenty of people who did Morton Joes. There was a really good mashup. It was a Trump and Morton Joe that was kind of creepy.
I think I saw that one. It looked hilarious.
Yeah, it was great. It was good. It was good. But I'm not really concerned with mashups either. Most of my cosplays, I like to keep true to what it is, because then it's what it is. Mm-hmm. And it's cool if people do mashups, but. So I did that, and when that my biggest moment almost brought a tear to my eye. It was like, they're bringing people up, and I'm up there on stage, and you hear it's Taserface, and all I do is walk up in front, and the 2 words I have to say if you're a Taserface character.
Taserface?
No, what's his like?
No, it was the malaprop, because he says the wrong thing as if it's but he's yelling out the excitement thing.
Are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's metaphorical.
Oh, yeah, it's metaphorical.
And that's all I did all weekend. Like Saturday, I dressed up, and like when people wanted to take back, we're like, hey, Taserface, it's metaphorical. It's just that enough. If you can have that voice like Chris Sullivan has, and you can. That sells the character. I mean, yes, you look like him, but then you got the...
I saw him walking in. He got stopped about 8 or 10 times to get a picture before he even made it to the floor.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, that's Taserface! And they're running over to come get pictures.
Yeah, recognizable makes it easy. But then, like, when we had the top picks or whatever, and they lined us up, and the 10 people are up there as the best of what the judges pick, and they call everybody's name for the crowd, and when they call my name, it's a whole crowd. Taserface! It was like, oh my god, a little tear in my eye. Like, I didn't. Hey man, I didn't create the character. I didn't have anything to do with any of that. But being able to dress up and be believable as that person meant the world to me. Because sometimes I'll see, so like, let's talk about Chris Sullivan, like. Stranger Things season 1, and when I see actors in roles and things, there are a lot of times when I say I could have been that guy. So in season 1 of Stranger Things, Chris Sullivan was the diner owner that Eleven runs.
Into, and he makes the food. Yeah, he cooks her. The waffles, I think.
Yeah, that was Chris Sullivan.
Huh.
But like see characters like that, a little bit heavy set guy with some facial hair, and I think I could have been that guy. So for me, that's just like I look to some people as inspiration. Like, okay, if Chris Sullivan can do this, I can do this. Mm-hmm. You know, there's people my size that look like me or whatever. Tate Fletcher is another one that I take inspiration from. Like we met on Jumanji, the first Jumanji, and oddly enough, like people have asked me, they've seen like him in a movie, like because he does little parts. He started out as UFC, went into stunts led to acting, blah blah blah. So he does both in movies. And if you look up Tate Fletcher, you'll see he's on a lot of things, but you just don't know who he is. You see his face and you recognize him. Anyway, like I take him as inspiration, and there have been times when people have sent me a screenshot. I go, "Were you in this movie? Were you in this?" And I was like, "No, that's Tate. That's Tate." Because we do look that much alike if you at a glance, you know, same height, same weight, beard, shaved head. It's easy. And I actually put in to be a stand-in for him in New Orleans, and I was like a day late for that. He was doing some show. I'm not sure what it was. 6 months ago. And I applied to be his stand-in, and it was like a day late. And like the next day, I get an email back going, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe we just cast this guy because you would be perfect, but we already got somebody as a stand-in." I was like, "Man, look, if I could be a lifetime stand-in for Tate does a lot of work, and stand-ins make a lot of money. I'll do that. I don't have to be in front of the camera because Tate's doing things like Westworld season 1." He was the big guy who was in the crevice that they found out on the outside.
Oh, yeah.
He had the rock, and he crushed his own head with the rock.
Yeah.
It was Tate. So he's done a lot of things. He fought Ben Affleck in The Accountant outside in the truck when they
in the truck. That's him.
Oh yeah. No, he was in a bunch of things in a real short period of time.
Bunch of things.
He was
John Wick.
Because that's where I saw him, because he's the one where he gets ready to choke him, and it says, "I'm going to ask you a question. Don't tell the lies."
Yep.
Yeah. And
I'll give you another one. That we just talked about. Barry.
He's in Barry.
Yep. You have to look for him.
Is he one of the Chechens?
Yep. When they have Barry's uncle, or what's his name? The guy who sends him on his gigs. Not really a family member, but he calls him an uncle or something.
You talking about Fonzie?
No.
No.
The guy, he's been in like Office Space and a bunch of. He was
Dodgeball.
I forget his name.
Oh brother, where art thou?
Oh brother, what was he in?
He was at the radio, the
That's
DJ
right.
guy.
That's
it's
right.
Stephen Root.
Yeah, Stephen. So when they have him tied up in the garage, and they're going
Jimmy James from News Radio.
Yeah,
Stephen Root.
Yeah,
God, you know your names.
They have him tied up in the garage, and they're going to kill him. You know, he's one of the Chechens that's standing behind him. So and probably they were like, "We need a big, scary-looking guy with a beard and shaved head. Call Tate." That's one of those things. And even the
I don't have a scary face.
In Waco, if you watch the Waco series, he had a couple of lines in that. He was in the compound. He was a big guy with a gun, and he had a couple of lines in Waco.
Well, in The Accountant, he's the one of the henchmen for John Barenthal's character. Another one of the guys who works their way up from being in the smaller things.
Yep. So I just see it all as the acting thing. Who knows if there'll be anything after tomorrow? But I feel like like I said before, if a door opens, you go through it. You take the steps. You do what's necessary to kind of move forward into that kind of thing.
Well, that's where your reaction when you're talking about when the Taserface response during the cosplay. That's something that you don't get from acting in film and television. Is that you do it
because
you're away from the audience. You're separated from the audience. I mean, there's your fellow professionals that are work with you. It's like, oh, that was really good, but it's a different thing when you're doing it for people that don't know the expectation of the work or anything that's going on.
Did you end up winning that cosplay contest?
Which one?
The
Taserface
one.
I won that one. Yeah,
you won that one.
I won that one. So the following
you
year,
didn't win the Morton Joe, did you?
I didn't even get in the contest for that.
Because you didn't come back yet, and you were iffy about Taserface because I think Sunday you weren't available to come back to begin with.
Yeah, because Sundays are generally harder for me because I work. There
was so much of a positive response on Saturday that you came back.
Yeah, I had to,
and even Andy won.
Yeah, and I'm not. I mean, again, like
it was a fantastic fantastic costumes.
I don't want to take anything away from anybody else. There were some fantastic costumes, and I always feel like, wow, that one should win, that one should win. They were really good. They put a lot of time and effort into it, but it might have been something that people are like, I don't even know what that is, which happens a lot of times.
Yes.
And if you're going to do like I said, if you're going to do a contest, it's generally going to be a popularity contest. So you have to do something that is relevant and recognizable and recent, blah blah blah. So that didn't hurt. So then the next year, which was last year, so this is 2 years ago.
You did Aquaman, right?
Yeah, last year was Aquaman. And again, it was an inspiration. Like, I loved Momoa as Khal Drogo. It was awesome. But when he was, I just felt like nobody else could have done Aquaman the way he did.
Nobody could have done what he did.
Well, yeah, because he played himself. He played Aquabro.
He always, okay. Well, but again, yeah.
He made the character, he made it his character.
His character, right.
Yeah.
Jason Momoa is another actor who will just kind of always be Jason Momoa. He doesn't have range. He's not Gary Oldman.
He has a lot of charisma.
He has charisma, and that's what sells it. But as far as, the classic Aquaman was kind of a wimp. I mean,
lame.
Yeah. I mean,
the costume didn't help it.
Costume alone was
somehow they pulled off that costume.
Well, yeah, because they made it muscular.
They made it Jason Momoa.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that they actually brought out that original costume in that movie, you're like, they did it.
I was impressed. Well, that's the thing, is I think they wanted to stay away from it the first time. So yeah, in the first movie, I had a costume made, that big silly green looking thing, and I don't know if I'll ever put it on again. I hate it. But I had a friend, a local friend who does iron work, actually made me an actual trident.
Yeah,
so
I saw that. That looked awesome.
It's an actual real trident. And I got great pictures out of it, but because I won the contest at HeroesCon the year before, I wasn't eligible to be in the contest, but I could be a judge. So I wore the costume. I wore the Aquaman at HeroesCon last year. It was last year, right?
I think so, yes.
Last year, and then was a judge for the contest on Sunday.
Who won?
Oh God, I don't remember. I don't remember. It was a good one.
There's some really good costumes.
Really good costumes.
I think it gets better every year. Like, or just in general, when you look at the cosplay community, people put more and more time and effort into doing it.
Yeah, there's some.
And money.
People make careers out of it.
Well, I mean, that's there is
especially
that,
the women.
But it's the hobby situations what people put their money into. I mean, is golfers that are never going to be better than 85 or whatever on a day. It's like they're still putting thousands of dollars upon that, and this is the hobby that somebody else does.
And if it's what you enjoy,
then what does it matter?
Since you've been so busy recently, did you any chance of doing anything this year? Next week?
As far as cosplay,
yeah.
Okay. So let's fast forward then. So I judged last year HeroesCon, and because of the guest list at SuperCon in Raleigh, I had not met. When you get it, like Sons of Anarchy was one of my favorite shows when it was on, and Ryan was going to be Ryan Hurst was a guest in Raleigh for the SuperCon, which was a month after HeroesCon. And I thought, you know what, I have this Aquaman suit, I've spent a lot of money on, blah blah blah. They have an adult only Friday night cosplay contest in Raleigh at the SuperCon. I said that'd be perfect. It's adult only. Well, I'll do the Aquaman there. So I did that, and I got a Judge's Choice Award. Didn't win. It was a first place and a second place and a couple of Judges Awards, but I got a Judge's Award for that. So, to me, again, it's one of those things where it validates what you're doing. If people like it and you get people taking pictures all the time and you win some awards, then it's worth doing. Mm-hmm. So anyway, no, I'm probably not going to cosplay next weekend because a lot of times I don't like to do the same thing. I know it sounds
that's what I mean. Like, did you come up with? I was asking if you had come up with something that you want to do.
There hasn't in the last.
Nothing struck your eye in the last year that you're like, I might do that.
Yeah, it's got to really hit me over the head like that. I could cosplay that, and not only just me being able to cosplay it, but would anybody care? Like, and yes, I do it. It's the entertainer in me. Like, I do it to entertain people. When you dress up as anybody and you see people get excited, it fills you up with joy. Like, I enjoy making other people happy.
You like seeing those eyes light up.
Yeah, across the room.
Photo.
Coming to you. Yeah, sure. So anyway,
metaphorical.
It's metaphorical. And they love, people love that shit.
They did. They did love it.
I think I was at that. Did I go that year? I don't know if I went to that one. I think I went to the year when Fury Road came out, I saw you as a Morton Joe.
Okay. Well, yeah, when Matt had that video of him, like, he ran like across the room. I was getting ready to leave.
Yeah.
It was Sunday, and I was leaving. And
shout out witness.
Dude, yeah, he was like, oh no, 100%. And the video's out there somewhere. He got down on his knees, and on purpose, as part of the costume, I was like, I got to get some silver spray, and it was like cupcake spray. That's what it was. You know, it doesn't taste very good, which he told me later because I didn't spray myself. I wasn't going to try that. Anyway, yeah, he runs across the room, and he's like on his knees in front of me with his hands up, like, "Hey, boy, witness me!" And you got to do the whole character. I get right into it, and I pull it out, and I'm like, "To Valhalla," and I spray his face, and mediocre. He loved it. He thought it was fantastic.
I would have loved that. I wish I had known you had cupcake spray. I would have been like, dude, please.
I saw several people got sprayed. They
Absolutely.
all into it.
If you were, that's what I said. You understand?
That's
be
one of
willing.
my favorite movies of the last decade. I fucking love that movie. So
Yeah.
I would have. I didn't know you had spray paint.
Yeah.
I would have totally been like, yeah, dude, do it.
I can find it for you. Matt is easy to get in touch with. I'm sure he still has it. I'm sure he shares it. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, there's not been any kind of
inspiration.
Yeah, in the last however much time. However, this July in Raleigh for the SuperCon, which I think they've now changed the name to GalaxyCon.
I think that's right.
Yeah, I don't know why, but yeah, it's cool. Last year was nuts. They have a whole lot of guests, and I like. Shelton does Heroes Con differently. It's art based. It's not about celebrities.
It's more about the art and the
comics.
writers
It's
and the comics.
And that's fine. That's cool. Fantastic. Raleigh, however, last year was nuts, and there were probably 15 or 20 celebrity guests. This year, more. And
I haven't seen the lineup yet.
Yeah, look it up. I mean, if you're a Rocky Horror fan, Tim's going to be there, and Tim doesn't do public appearances.
Really?
Anymore.
Yeah.
Tim
Curry's going to be there.
That was the announcement that
shut up.
You can tell how old people are by how they recognize Tim Curry from.
Right. Which was it? Clue? Was it Rocky?
Clue,
was it
Legend.
For me, it's Legend.
Yeah,
I love him in Legend.
Dude, I should have brought I've got that like 7-inch action figure of the
demon from Legend.
Yeah.
Fucking love that.
Yeah.
Cosplay is that.
I think Criminal Minds might have been one of the last things he's done.
Yeah.
Well, that might have been right before he got sick.
Yeah, and everything I read that said since the stroke he just wasn't doing public appearances, and he's not actually signing stuff at his table either. You have to send it in, and they'll do it separately, and it's a nice to meet you, shake your hand, get a signature, and you're done. Anyway, there's like 4 people from Rocky Horror. So my point, and as far as the cosplay goes, is Chris Sullivan's going to be there.
Oh wow, that's good.
There you go. So, if anything else, like I want to go and do the adult contest on Friday night. To me, it'll be relevant because
John Cleese is going to be there.
John Cleese is going to be there.
Well,
John
I mean, John Cleese is always on his I have money to pay out my divorce tour. He's always on that tour.
Luke Cage is going to be there.
Yeah.
Coulter's from South Carolina.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Yeah, just keep going.
Anthony Michael Hall. Meatloaf is going to be there.
Meatloaf's going to be there.
David Tennant's going to be there.
That's the biggest names you're ever going to get from Rocky Horror because Sarandon and Boswick don't show up.
No, and the girl who played Magenta. There's like 4 people from Rocky Horror.
Chris Sullivan's going to be there, like you said. The It Kids are going to be there.
Yeah.
The kids from It, huh?
Yeah. There's a lot.
There are.
The guest list is even longer than it was last year, and it was nuts last year. And here's the thing: is like if you're somebody like me, you have to pick and choose. Like if you were rich, you could get signatures from everybody.
Yeah.
But I don't. And these are one of the situations where I can guarantee you there won't be a line for Chris Sullivan. But anyway, I plan to do the cosplay contest Friday night. I'm hoping Chris will be there on Friday because a lot of actors. If they're working, they might be working. That's what happened to Ryan last year. He was supposed to be there Friday, but he had just started Walking Dead.
Right.
And I knew that. And I was like, I took him one of my Walking Dead 8x10s, and I was like, welcome to the family. It wasn't even public yet. He had just started filming. Go ahead. What were you going to say, John?
No, I'm sorry.
Is that Wallace Shawn you're looking at?
Your face.
How'd you know? Okay, first off, Princess Bride, one of my favorite movies. I need to get a video of him just doing the
inconceivable.
Inconceivable. And I need to get him to do the whole
the second greatest lie in all of history. The first is never fight a land war in Asia. The second is never go in with Sicilian when death is on the line.
Death is on the line. I need that. All right, I'm going to GalaxyCon now.
Well, get your tickets. It's the last weekend of July. So anyway, yeah, when I found out Chris was going to be there, I thought, yeah, this is a perfect opportunity to do Taserface again. So I feel like if I do Taserface Friday and do the contest, I might have a good chance because Chris is there. And I'd love to get, if he's there Friday, I'd love to get a picture with him. Yeah. With me in my Taserface costume.
Cool.
So
that'd be really cool.
I don't know if he'd care, but there and again, like you said, how many Taserface cosplays are there? There's not that many people doing Taserface.
I think if you were to see that, you're gonna be like, okay,
yeah,
you know what?
Yeah.
He's gonna preach. It's gonna. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you might get the same feeling you might get when you see someone actually
pride and
a little bit of pride and someone actually wants
connecting.
It's connecting. You see the guy like. This guy actually likes my character. And, he was a pretty funny bit in the movie.
But I hate that he died in the movie because I was like, it'd be nice for Taserface to come back. But and I had a grill. Like, there's a guy who makes vampire teeth that goes to all the cons. Horror Show Jackie goes around to all the cons, does vampire teeth. I commissioned him to make me a golden grill. I don't go halfway, bro.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
I got the contacts that are almost exactly like his contacts. I got the grill, and it's full on. So, and part of me too is like, I could have been Taserface if I had been in the right place at the right time. That could have been me.
Keep posting for those Atlanta Marvel movies.
Yeah,
given some of the laws they're trying to do, they're Disney and Marvel are trying to say
we don't want to go there.
Well, I'm not trying to go into that topic. I'm just saying they might be trying to pull Marvel and Disney productions from Atlanta,
which was in the Wilmington area to begin with.
Right, but that's the thing is we talked about. I had a conversation today or yesterday with somebody. Hey, North Carolina had a lot of filming before the tax cuts. That's right,
and we just vetoed that bill.
That's right.
Come back.
Hey, we just built a brand new Planned Parenthood, beautiful place here.
I'm just saying, you know what? Come back. Why not? They can come back. We have a governor that will give you subsidies.
There was a lot. Well, in theory, because Swamp Thing got cut short.
Yeah,
it was 3 episodes cut short from its original run, and then it debuted last week, and they already announced that this.
Was it because of subsidies or what?
Yes, there was the.
Was that being filmed in Wilmington?
It was in Wilmington at the Gemstone Studio, which was the original, all the way back to the Crow. Was back there.
One Tree Hill was Wilmington back in the day. Yeah.
And so Charleston, though, is getting a lot of overflow because of Atlanta and the lack of that. So, I mean, and they still have the that they're restructuring with all of the Navy base down there. So there's space for that. So maybe not necessarily North Carolina, but Charleston's not terribly far away.
Yeah.
Charleston's closer than Wilmington and Atlanta. So,
it's quicker to get to because you get once you cross the state border, you got 8 lanes until you get past Rock Hill, and then getting to Atlanta, Columbia is easy.
Definitely
from there.
You can book it 90 all the way to Charleston.
I
made that drive rather quickly before.
Well, Tuesday I had to leave because I booked this.
Yeah, I saw that you drove like 800 something miles.
Yeah, that's why I posted that thing because it was kind of crazy. And
people I saw probably a little circle there. You're like, people you did Atlanta to Charleston to Charlotte.
No. It started Charlotte Monday. My family was in Cherry Grove, which my family's always gone to the beach every year. So I went down with the intention of staying for a few days, or at least I went down with the intention of staying Monday. So. Monday left and went to Cherry Grove, hung out, stayed the night. I knew I had to be in Charleston on Tuesday to shoot for this HBO show, so I knew it was going to be a late call too. So I could, it's 2.5 hours from Cherry Grove to Charleston, easy, and it's a nice drive going down 17 down the coast, and all that. So I knew I was doing that, and I thought that I was going to come back from Charleston and go to Cherry Grove for the rest of the week and come home. Well, while I was on set in Charleston, I was looking at my stuff, and I applied for the gig in Atlanta. Which is another HBO show, and 5 minutes later they call me, and that's never really happened. I send them my photos, I apply for it, boom, my phone rings. Can you be here tomorrow for a fitting not in Atlanta, but in Norcross? And I was like, yep. So
I guess I will be.
Yeah, we wrap at 12:30 in Charleston Tuesday night. I drive to Augusta, 2.5 hours. I get a room. Tool around Augusta for a minute, take a picture with James Brown. I've never been to Augusta before. I was like, home James Brown. So I go find the statue. I take a picture of the statue.
Of which they currently don't know where his body is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of a thing.
Wait, what?
There's a whole article story that came out maybe about a month ago. But long story short is His death, there's a lot of questions about what the cause was. Like, not like the actual cause of death, but who may have been the cause of that cause of death.
Where did he die?
In
South Carolina?
His body was on display at his house.
In Georgia.
Yes.
Okay.
For a period of time after he died. And now there's the question of where it actually is.
He wasn't actually buried. There wasn't any kind of burial.
But there was a whole bunch of intestate with I don't think there was a will, and there was a whole bunch of thing with the relatives, and then all of that, and whether then he eventually became cremated or if he's just somewhere in.
So nobody knows.
Yeah.
Or at least it's not public knowledge.
Yeah, it's
not public knowledge at the moment.
Well, did you ever the Finders Keepers, the story about the amputated leg that was sold in the grill?
Oh, yeah.
So did you ever see the documentary about that?
Oh, yeah.
It's on
I
Netflix.
was intrigued.
The single most amazing thing about that is that for a period of time, it was stored in a Hardee's freezer for about 6 hours.
Yeah. You got to watch that documentary. When I first saw the story, I was like, this can't be true.
It's fantastic.
But then I thought, wait a minute, it's in North Carolina. Of course it's true.
I remember
rural North Carolina.
I remember when it was bought and dealing with that. And some friends of mine worked on that documentary and made that documentary.
Really?
I'm actually in the credits of that documentary. Yes.
Cool.
But it's on Netflix. It's ridiculous. And one of the characters,
you can't even peel yourself away,
is amazing. The sister of the woman who lost the leg has one of the greatest lines in any documentary ever. But you have to watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
the thing is, that's
James
the whole
Brown was
thing.
kind of missing.
I like morbid shit, and it was like, this can't be real. And it was. I mean, come on, think about it.
Yeah, you're right.
You buy a grill out of a storage room, and all of a sudden,
is that a leg?
What you need to do is you need to keep on a lookout because Captain Marvel 2 is probably going to get made here very soon.
Sure, yeah.
I'm sure
they need to have a bad
character.
guy.
You're gonna.
Well, you're talking about the connections. A friend of mine, they've since moved to Los Angeles to continue advancing their career, but they were in Atlanta, and they would post because they knew this group that we're in were fans of the movies, but there were the calls for lots of extras in city scenes and they told us what it was, a Marvel movie. And then it's like, and then background scenes for this because of so many things that were built down there, or that they just need a bunch of people that are different looking.
Bodies, yeah.
That's the whole thing. But what was going with that was like the alien / costume / I'm sure they'll be looking for a dude that fits your profile.
Well, I mean, I applied for when Guardians 2 was, and sometimes you don't know what you're applying for because you don't have the title, but they were looking for odd-looking, tall, different type faces, and that was when
to be a Ravager, probably
that's what it was. Yeah, it was. What I realized because a friend of mine had booked on it. I was like, oh, that's what it was.
You're like, damn it.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
Nah, I wouldn't want to have done that if Chris Sullivan was Taserface. I just went on to that role. And then, otherwise, no, I'm not. If I'm standing beside him, that's not good. However,
I could have done that.
I will run this back, and this is not public knowledge either. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I got to stand next to one of my favorite characters from Game of Thrones for 5 weeks. So,
well, that's pretty cool.
You're going to find that out in December too.
That's pretty cool.
I keep waiting for the trailer to come out, so then go, yep, there I am. Because then once it's out, and you can say, there I am, right there.
Please tell me it's the mountain.
I'm not going to tell you, but you're going to find out soon enough whenever they put a trailer out.
Because that's got to be pretty soon. Because
because Star Wars, when a Star Wars trailer came out, I thought, okay, well, this trailer's going to come soon because it's December too, and it's the week before, so it comes out December 13th. So, trailer, I thought they were going to hold any kind of trailer until Game of Thrones wrapped and maybe use a little bit of that momentum, but then there was so much negative press about it and the storyline. They were like, But yeah, I'm waiting for a trailer.
Well, it'll definitely be by San Diego Comic-Con. It'll definitely release during that weekend. That's late July, early August.
Okay,
July, early August.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
So that definitely will be then. So it's just a matter of if that studio has a bigger movie before then and they throw it in front of that.
Are you talking about movie?
Yeah. Yeah, movie, yeah. Oh. Comes out December in the theaters. Nice. It'll be a blockbuster.
By the way, the Jumanji sequel comes out this year in December.
In December as well. We have confirmed that one as well. It's not the same movie, obviously.
Well, we don't know that.
We don't know that. Anything's possible.
Those just happen to be happening at the same time.
Anything's possible.
Well, Jumanji. I mean, not to circle back to Star Wars, but Jumanji is one of the reasons why Last Jedi didn't make as much money because that movie cut in.
I disagree.
Big time in the box
office.
office.
I don't think so.
Disagree.
No, Biggest Showman.
Look, you can say all you want about that. No,
Biggest Showman and Jumanji cut into the gross.
Not at all. Entirely different audiences.
I don't think so at all.
Yeah. No. Well, okay. Well, how about this? any audience that would go see Star Wars and if they were geeks, they would go see that as well.
That's what I'm saying. They cut into the multiple views.
No, not at all.
I don't.
Greatest Showman made all its money because it stayed in theaters until March. I saw it with my the free pass, the movie pass.
The multiplier in
March.
that movie was insane.
But it was
not, one of those movies just held on.
But it wasn't. It was an outlier. That and Something About Mary were just complete outliers to the multipliers because they didn't work because they just stayed. Greatest Showman didn't start off big at all. It
didn't. That's what I'm saying. It didn't drop off
at all. Grind.
It didn't
people who went to see it told people. And then those people saw it, and then they told people.
The movie was awful, but the music was fantastic.
Well, yeah, but Star Wars fans going to see Greatest Showman? No.
Families?
No.
All right.
We're different. The people sitting at this table are different from your general population. We're movie geeks and comic geeks, and it's a little bit different.
I genuinely believe that those two movies cut into the grosses.
No.
And a general
Jumanji was the movie that pops up that nobody expects. That didn't take away from anything else. That was the one that hit a certain family thing that wasn't there the year before or Christmases previously. Right. The last several Christmases. The Christmas releases
by Star Wars.
have been adult releases.
Right.
The rom-com, the drama, the whatever. It's been specifically here's our prestige thing. That was the first big kind of family thing. We Bought a Zoo was the only thing close to that. Yeah. That was like 5 years before. That was 2012.
All your family stuff's usually summertime.
Disney shifted. Star Wars used to be traditionally a Memorial Day release.
No, it wasn't. It was earlier.
It's a May release.
It was the second week of May.
It's a May release, is what I'm saying.
Memorial Day. It's not anymore.
Not anymore. No, can I finish? I was saying, but the first 6 movies.
You say traditionally. Half the people listening to this are thinking, "What do you mean? It's always been December."
Right. No. Well, I'm talking about for people who actually. I wasn't around when the first 3 came out, but
I fortunately was.
Those movies came out in May, and then the last 3 prequels came out in May as well. Then Disney decided to shift the release of that movie to December.
Disney did not. J.J. Abrams did. Disney had it set up as a May release.
No, it did get delayed to. It technically got delayed.
Pushed. It got pushed because
to December.
Harrison Ford broke his ankle, and they had to.
That was the reason.
That was the second reason.
That's the best thing that could have happened to Star Wars.
No, I agree.
They learned it. They learned a lesson with Solo. They tried to release Solo during the summer blockbuster season,
and why did they do that? Because they were listening to loudmouths like you. It's a May release. No, it's not. It comes out when it comes out, and people will watch it when it watches.
Well, Star Wars, they're basically saying it's going to be it's now a Christmas release, December release time.
Well, the thing is, I thought when they moved it, they immediately realized that because Lord of the Rings had prepared everybody that second weekend of December or the first 10 days in 2001, 2, and 3, and then the Hobbit movies. It's like Solo. People will watch something that comes out.
Solo would have done much better if they released it this past December.
It absolutely would have.
And we would be possibly still be getting.
Oh no! A lot of the other things would still. Solo would have made over $1 billion.
I don't know about billion, but it would have made us like 700.
It would have, because what came out this past December around Christmas
I
that
can't
was
even tell
you. Yeah, but you have to remember. I think the casting on Solo, a lot of people had a problem with that.
Well, a lot of people, yes,
a lot of people are wrong.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm going with general population. I give everything a chance.
It's kind of hard to cast Harrison Ford.
Well, of course, you're not going to put. Well, the same thing. I have big reservations about how is Will Smith going to step in Robin Williams' shoes. Not that Robin Williams physically did it, but the voice. Those are big
Will
shoes.
Smith played Will Smith.
Well, that's what I read. I haven't seen it yet. I want to see it, and that's everything I've read was Will Smith made the genie him.
And that was the thing. And I had said previously in one of these podcasts, I think the biggest disappointment, but it was a positive thing. The biggest disappointment watching Aladdin is that we haven't had fun Will Smith for about 15 years.
Right. Because it was.
I can't honestly say I'd recommend
Independence Day. Independence Day was fun, but that's been more than 15 years.
That was what, 96?
Yeah.
95?
Yeah.
I mean, the closest thing that he was.
Men in Black 3.
Men in Black 3.
Men in Black 3 was fun. He was fun in 3.
Yeah, but that was like the only thing he's been trying.
That was him and Brolin, and they did a pretty good job.
And they've been chasing he's been chasing the Oscar to some extent.
Right.
And I mean, I have no interest in seeing the new international Men in Black.
It looks. I am very excited for that. I like Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth.
I like both of them, but it's not worth seeing a Men in Black movie without Will Smith.
Yeah,
for me at least. I'm just like, Men in Black.
I'll give it a chance.
I'll probably.
That quirky character that they have on the shoulder, though.
That's
in the
a weird
trailer,
thing.
I'm just like, I'm not.
That's no Frank the Pug.
I just want to anything that comes close to Jar Jar Binks, I want to stay away from. Like, let's not have that quirky alien character, man.
Speaking of Comic-Con,
Jar Jar. Oh,
no. I'm talking about like toxic behavior at comic conventions. Okay. That poor guy that played Jar Jar, who avoided
Amon Best,
he avoided those conventions for the longest
Wouldn't
time.
You?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not. I feel bad for him.
They're not separating.
They're not separating the character from the actor.
Well, that goes along with the kid that played Joffrey. Like, they said for even still sometimes he doesn't like to go out in public because
he quit acting.
Yeah, they connect the character to the person.
He was in the Jodie Foster. King and I movie, and also in Batman Returns. Batman Begins.
Yeah, in Batman Begins, he played the little kid that he sees.
That he rescues, that he gives the thing to, and he helps later. And
but the best thing he could do is get into something that's as far away from what Joffrey was.
But the thing is, he was so good, and every actor who's talked about is like, oh, he's like the nicest person on the entire set. He just like hangs around, hey, what's going on?
Well, just like the same guy. Well, the guy who played Malfoy. He's tried his best to try and get out of that.
He's continued to act, but I mean he'll be fine with that because I mean he's a British actor playing a British character like that. Joffrey was just so villainous,
right?
That it's hard.
But as he gets older and grows up, I mean he'll have a career.
He'll have something.
Yeah.
The thing that I'd say that's the guy Voldemort, Ralph Fiennes, is one of my favorite actors. Yeah. But the first thing I ever saw him in was Quiz Show, and then I saw Schindler's List.
Yeah.
So if I had seen Schindler's List before, I would have hated him so much, I would have never wanted to see him in anything else.
Yeah.
And he still would be just as great of an actor. It's just like, nope, this is you're the Nazi, I don't want to watch you.
Right. But to me, Ralph Fiennes is one of those guys who can
play anything.
Yeah, that's why. That's what. Really sometimes when we talk about people and having a menagerie of characters and having never really gotten any accolades, like I always go to Gary Oldman. I mentioned him earlier. Yes. Like, as far as an actor goes who can do anything and has done a lot of things very well,
he finally got his Oscar though.
What did he get an Oscar for?
Winston
Churchill. Played Winston Churchill.
Churchill, yeah.
But he did a great job with Churchill.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was one of the things you're talking about. That is, I always thought early in his career he was older than he was.
Gary Oldman?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
no,
then,
he always played older
then later,
characters.
then he was getting, because it was the in Professional he seemed older than he was, which is probably closer to his age. And Dracula, he was much older. But then he was in Sid and Nancy, and it's like, oh, well, he had to be younger.
He's 20 years younger.
And so it's like, oh no, he can play a lot in that area.
I've always thought Gary Oldman's in his 50s the entire time. I'm like,
he just stayed there.
He just stayed.
He is a vampire.
He's been in his 50s for the last 30 years. Right. Is what I think. When I see
I mean, he played
until I saw him in that Hitman's Bodyguard movie, where we were like, wait a second. Gary Oldman's in this movie? Like, where'd he come from?
Well, he was in young Commissioner Gordon at the beginning of Batman Begins. It's like, so he's like in his 30s. And then it's like, oh, no, now he's in his 50s. Oh, it's the same guy.
He's a chameleon, yeah.
Yeah, I love Gary.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Him and Willem Dafoe. They're kind of like the same.
But Willem
they don't age.
But see, in my mind, I connect them because of their quirkiness. Like,
that's what I'm playing. Like,
not so much that Willem can play all those different kind of characters, but Willem's so quirky that
that's kind of grouping them in that. Like, they're kind of like just who they are.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah.
Willem Dafoe, who I think would have been a perfect Joker.
Oh, sure.
Even the look and face, you're like, that'd be perfect.
Or what's his name from Fargo? Like everything he does is amazing. He's in that new Netflix thing where he plays God.
Steve Buscemi. TBS.
That's TBS. So
it's a TBS series.
Buscemi. I mean, look at all the things he's done and done them so well. Like
and again, he's been the same age for 30 years.
Yeah, he's been the same age for 30 years. I mean, they just did the.
I hope I have that gene. I don't get any older from here.
I'm pretty sure you're
stays the
same. You've been the same age for 10 years now.
I'd like to feel like it. I feel like I look better than I did 10 years ago, but that's just me. That's
aging like fine wine.
All right.
No, but like for guys like that, Steve Buscemi. I mean, I'll just watch the Honest trailer for Con Air, and you're like, oh, I forgot he was in that movie.
Yeah,
and he plays the fucking psycho who's like,
he plays the real criminal.
He plays the real criminal, and you're just like,
oh yeah.
I think I didn't get typecast in that.
Yeah, that was like 96, 97, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
that was the year that Face Off and that movie came out the same summer, 3 weeks apart.
Wow.
That was like what, 97, I think it was.
Something like that.
And then like right before that, The Rock came out.
No, The Rock was the year before Con Air, because in The Rock, and Con Air, Nicolas Cage is playing Sean Connery and John Cusack is playing Nicolas Cage.
Right,
roles, yeah. And that's funny because the Rock was like kind of like, I know somebody in a movie that was from Charlotte when the Rock came out.
Oh,
he had one line. Well, do you know who it is?
I do not actually.
You don't? Jerry? He still lives in Charlotte, still acts, but I knew him closely at the time when The Rock came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I know that guy.
Which character?
He's one of the tourists in the jail.
Oh, okay.
He has one of the best lines ever in a movie.
Is it? Wait.
you want me to give you the line?
No, see, you have these lines in your head. I'm going through the Rolodex of lines in that movie.
Yeah.
What's the line?
But The Rock is, what kind of fucked up tour is this?
That guy?
John Love, Charlotte, North Carolina.
No shit.
Yeah. We knew each other well back then. I was like, John, look at that. John's in the movie.
Huh.
Yeah.
I like that
line. I don't know what he's done since, but hey, that's an icon. Exactly. When you think of The Rock, I mean, that's
that's one of the better
one of those.
things.
Yeah, fantastic.
That's the only tourist
memorable
that sticks out.
line. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Hey, and it was one line in a movie, but
good for
cool.
him.
Yeah. Especially when you can do an icon. I think that movie has stood the test of time. Anytime it comes on a Saturday afternoon, you don't change the channel.
Watch it.
No.
Yeah, and it's mostly because of Sean Connery.
That movie really holds up very well.
Oh,
that
From
movie,
action.
In the guy who played the hairdresser for Sean Connery set up Boston Common. He got that series on NBC for about 2 or 3 years because of that.
Was he a gay character in Boston?
No, he was just a regular guy.
I want to know if you like your hair.
I'm not assuming that he was a gay character. I'm just saying he played.
They had him as the Southern bumpkin character.
Yeah. I'm not going to do anything with this.
That was actually one of Margot Kidder's last roles too.
Really?
Was in Boston Common.
I'm going for a grunge thing.
No.
but yeah, that movie had all sorts of actors in that and everything. It's Nell, the Liam Neeson.
Oh Jesus!
That was shot in Charlotte.
Was it shot in Charlotte?
Yeah.
Are we going to start talking about Charlotte movies? Because I actually had a chance to kind of talk to Jack Black for a second, and I was like, "Hey, by the way, I live in Charlotte, and I was in that scene on the bar scene on
in Shallow Hal.
Shallow Hal, yeah, that was at Amos's."
Well,
and
was that at Amos's?
If you go back and look, it's the old Amos's when Amos's used to have the upstairs balcony that overlooked the dance floor. And there was a bar scene. I was there, and I told him, I was like, I still work at that same building, and he said, "Good times." That's all he said. He said, "Good times."
Jason Alexander sang the national anthem in front of a Hornets game while he was shooting. While he was shooting that series. While he was shooting the movie.
What was that?
Really?
95, 6.
Something like
Shallow
that.
Hal?
Shallow Hal.
No, Shallow Hal came out
Early
like 2000s. Like 2000, 2001.
Yeah, that sounds more right. Yeah.
And then I think, or maybe a little bit later actually, because I do believe there's
But I think it might have been a playoff game, a Hornets playoff game, because he was local at the time because he was doing that.
Well, that was the old the
no longer Coliseum.
They called it. I guess they called it the Hive back then. Yeah.
2001.
2001.
So it's probably 2000 playoffs.
Was it the Bucks series?
Like that.
Was it against the Bucks?
That's the old Hornets.
Yeah.
Well, that was
Grandmama.
That was the Hornets I loved.
That was prior to Grandmama.
I still haven't quite grown to love the Hornets yet.
The Patriot was shot a lot of that in Brattonsville in South Carolina.
Yeah, I had a friend. One of my friends was in that.
Leatherheads was shot here.
Leatherheads was here. Yeah. But when Patriot was being filmed, I was like 18, 19, and there was a bar in town called Plum Crazies that did like a teen night. And I remember specifically going, and there were a bunch of people with mohawks and stuff like there. That we never was like, these guys, we don't know these guys. And then come to find out later, they were some of the Indians that were in the Patriot. Not Patriot. I'm sorry.
Last of the Mohicans.
Not Last of the Mohicans.
Last of the Mohicans would be closer to that time frame. Patriot was around.
Last of the Mohicans was filmed in Smoky Mountains.
Maybe that was it.
In Asheville, Boone area.
Maybe that was it.
That might have been
late 80s.
Yeah, late 80s, early 90s.
Late 80s, early 90s.
Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis's one action starring role.
Yeah. That might have been it then.
Because that was
definitely that was Last of the Mohicans. Because Patriot, the Wharton.
Dirty Dancing was Lake Lure. Fugitive, the opening scene of The Fugitive was up in the mountains. The train's still there. You can take a look.
Really?
At it.
It's not like derailed on the side?
It's
really?
derailed on the side. It was a spur, so they just popped it over the same because that way because they couldn't wreck it on a real track because they could damage it. So they just and so it's still there. You can come
was the dam scene North Carolina as well?
I don't believe so. I think they went somewhere else for that because they had to get the right look.
Homeland was filmed here. The first
3 seasons.
Well, oddly enough, like I did one episode of Shots Fired, that CBS show.
Oh yeah,
was,
Fox. I think it was on Fox.
Yeah.
On Fox. It might have been a CBS production, but I think it aired on Fox.
Okay, yeah. I was Caucasian arrested.
Ah.
And
know your credit?
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't even get credit. That's what I got hired for. There was no credit on it. But at the time, like I remember, like, did you watch any of that Shots Fired?
I remember I saw the pilot.
Okay, so the sheriff in the town was, and I'm totally not going to get his name, but he was in a show with Noah Wiley that I liked a lot. That had a couple seasons about aliens.
Oh, the librarian.
No, not the librarian.
Falling Skies.
Yeah, Falling Skies.
Falling Skies.
He was the guy with the ponytail that's done so much work in his career. Was in Fallen Skies. He was the sheriff of the town.
Yes.
And just being able to shake his hand for me because I like Fallen Skies so much, like, wow, I got to meet a famous person.
And after Noah Wiley left NBC, TNT took care of him for a while because he's on the Librarian TV movies and then the Falling Skies series.
Yeah. But Falling Skies was I was impressed by it.
I heard really good things about it.
You should go back and watch it.
The engineer at the TV station I used to work at, he would watch that all the time. He said, this is a really good show. And he never watched television.
Well, it was one of those that I waited every week. You know, there's some shows you're like, oh, I can't wait till the next episode. I love like how the old time TV shows always left you with a cliffhanger, like ta-da, until next week.
You have to tune back in. Yeah, actually, those shows.
But a lot of shows don't. A lot
of the shows used to leave you with cliffhangers before the commercial break. You're just like,
well, that's so you'll watch the commercial.
Yeah, exactly. You watch the commercial, then I hated that. But I mean, I kind of miss old school television watching traits.
Well, that's what we're coming back to, though.
Well, we're slowly going back to things to HBO.
Well, no, not thanks to HBO. CBS Access, where Swamp Thing was, and Doom Patrol, and the Teen Titans.
How was Doom Patrol?
They were terrific.
Is it really that good?
They released their series.
Who's involved with that show?
DC Universe. Excuse me. They released theirs on a weekly schedule. So does CBS Access because so many people are complaining about Star Trek Discovery. It's like, oh, I want to watch it all.
Apparently Star Trek Discovery is fantastic.
Well, I wanted to watch Twilight Zone too because.
I heard Twilight Zone's really good too.
I haven't watched it.
I don't have CBS Access.
That's a weekly release as well. I think they do 2 episodes every week, and then the Picard series got its trailer, and it's going to do the same thing.
That's gonna.
And Matthew Weiner, his Anastasia show on Amazon Prime was a weekly release, and I happened to get the opportunity to talk to him. Is that he likes the weekly release so you can reflect on what you saw and think about that and have that build up.
Well, didn't they only release on like Handmaid's Tale just came out this past week, the new season? Didn't they only release the first 3 episodes, and they're going to be doing that like that way? I think
it's possible.
I mean,
I talk to people. It's like I have all of the streaming things, but the only things I ever watch are the Netflix superhero ones and Mindhunter on Netflix, which is fantastic.
You need to watch Mindhunter. That's a great show.
And one of the things I was thinking about before coming over here, because I wasn't sure we had any kind of agenda, was realizing that, and I'm sure that actors are definitely this way. I'm realizing that I can't watch as much because of work. Like,
yes,
there's so much you want to see, but then if you're on set, you don't have time because you got to realize most productions you're at least 10 hours, if not 12 to 14 on set. So when you get off, you go to sleep. So you can get back up and do another 12 to 14 hours a day.
And particularly you with you having your money paying work being the weekend.
Yeah, so you have to double.
You don't even have the weekend too.
You don't have much free time right now.
Well, it's feast or famine. I tell people this all the time. It seems like with the acting stuff, it's either been all at one time or it's a barren wasteland for like 4 months. Really? I don't know why it works that way. It just happens to be that way. Like I feel
like that's that way with life in general, with anything.
Well, yeah, but it just seems like things either pile up at one time or it's like we go months when there's nothing.
It was really funny though when the movie was shooting at WTVI, the local PBS station, supported or not, I don't care now, is that the Owen Wilson was in it, Zach Galifianakis, and they were on set and everything. But once the weekend hit, they happened to be a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then they were in Charlotte, and they don't shoot on the weekend unless they really have to, so they won't. And then Monday, Tuesday, because everybody was either from Winston-Salem and came down to Charlotte to shoot for it, or from Los Angeles and were shooting on that. Everybody was just in Charlotte. So that was the weekend Prometheus came out. So everybody happened to go see it because this is what we're going to do. And so that's what everybody was talking about. So, people oftentimes will just hear, like, what is this going on? And because of that, I was able to go on to the set of Mad Men. And it was funny. John Slattery was the director of that episode. And he was terrifically nice. It's like, again, the same type of thing, but he was in between getting something set up, and he turned around and he introduced himself to both of us and asked how we're doing. And it's like, oh, we're from Charlotte. I said, oh, my wife on the show, because she was the vice president's wife on Homeland. Okay. And I immediately said, because in the context of Mad Men, it was his ex-wife. It's like, well, it's your ex-wife on the show, right? So yeah. And
semantics.
But because I didn't want to know if we were being given a scoop. Right. And he was fantastic in just talking about everything and just seeing how we were enjoying our time and explaining what was going on and everything. But in between, it was right as 30 Rock was winding down. So they listed their 100 greatest guest stars on the series. And both John Slattery and John Hamm were on the show. And this answered another question. When lead or principal actors on a show have the same first name, how do they separate them? Right. Because the last thing you want to do is confuse John and John. Yeah. And so they just referred to John Hamm as Ham. Right. And John Slattery was also on the show. He said, I was 17. I did pretty good. And then somebody asked and said, where's Ham? He was first.
Right. Of course. Because, to that note, on set, The Rock is always just DJ. That's because
it's wonder. It's like how
for Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah.
Actually, quick question: how's The Rock? Is he as charismatic as he charismatic as he advertises on his social media?
Is he that busy? Is that full?
Is he
speed?
that guy? Is he just constantly just going, or was he just kind of like meh? Not to, I don't want you to put you on the spot where you're.
Well, no, I would. To what I witnessed, was just very focused on his craft.
Just honed in.
Yeah.
That was the interesting. Zach Galifianakis, we had to set up a room for Owen Wilson. So in between sets, he would go and sit over, and he would say to himself, his girlfriend and his son and his dog were on set, so they would come in and we said, don't bother him, let him be who he was. And then Zach Galifianakis, again, told the exact same thing, but Zach Galifianakis just sits right into the middle of the media. As I was about to say, the headquarters of Video Village. He just sat right in the Video Village. For those who don't know, that's where all of the equipment and everything is set up so they can watch the camera shooting and they have the backups and everything else. So he just sits right in the middle of Video Village and going over his sides for his lines, and you can see him practicing that. And then after, if it's a little longer than that and he feels that he's comfortable enough, they'll just start talking to whoever's there.
Right.
And he was just like, no, I'm just going to sit in the middle, which is probably very much who he is, but also he's from North Carolina. So it's like, oh, I'm here.
I'm home, yeah.
Let me ask these local people. Like,
Zach Galifianakis always seems to me like he would be as a person, like, kind of like Jack Black.
A Jack Black, a natural, just
cut up, it's whatever.
He may be, but he was much quieter and much more to himself.
Well, he might have been, and that's the thing is, like, when we and I understand when they say, you just don't talk to the principals unless they talk to you, because especially like for Walking Dead, like Chris had that really long monologue. And he didn't really, and it was 8 of us, 3 of the principals and Chris. I mean, 7 of us and Chris. And even though he was kind of with us, he kept himself separated most of the time, and all he really did was kind of go over his sides and how he was going to deliver. You could see him between takes, like just going over the whole thing, his physicality, and just kind of how he was going to present the whole thing, because it was a really long monologue. And every time, it's just like with I said about Kevin Hart, like every time we would shoot it, and we shot it a lot because there was a whole lot of, front, back, side, blah, blah, a whole lot of different angles that we had to shoot. Every time we shot it, Chris kind of added his own little anecdotal things that he would say. And the thing he was most proud of, he said, like, after it had aired, was that they kept a thing about the the porn under the seat or something. It was one of his things. When he was talking about the napkins and whatever, the things that were in the truck is all ours. He added in, the porn under the seat, and they kept that. He was like so happy that they kept the porn under the seat because that was his thing. And it was just watching people. That's the thing is I like to watch people. When you're put, it's a whole different thing when you're put on the spot, and you've had these lines, you've practiced them, you know them in your head, but when it's roll, man, it's different.
Yeah, everybody's process is different.
It's different, and it's different. Even from, like you said, being in front of people, like being I didn't have any lines on a cosplay contest, but that experience for yourself is different. I think because for me, I would have 10 different things running through my head on top of what I had to say, because you have to sell it. Like you want everybody who sees it to believe that you are meaning the words you're saying and that you are having a genuine interaction with this other person that you're having lines with, even though everybody knows it's not real. That's there,
Right.
And the cool thing about it being on camera as opposed to being on stage with an audience is that you have second and third, fourth, and 10th chances to do it. Like theater to me would have to be the hardest thing ever. Like if you have an extended, like if your character is the main character and you have extended lines that you have to know and you can't fuck them up. Like if you do, then you've lost the magic that you created as taking this audience to another place and whatever. Where in movies you can just do it, like we'll do it again, and you get the one you like, and then that's what everybody sees at the end.
That was funny you mentioned that, because 2 weeks ago Jimmy Kimmel hosted the live All in the Family and the Jeffersons thing. And
how did that go, by the way?
I think it got a lot of ratings. I watched it because I wanted to see whenever anything's live on network television. I just want to see the technical aspect, how they do it, what they did with the studio. And the thing that was pretty cool is the Django was Eric Bishop, who is I'm all of a sudden missing the actor, played George Jefferson, and he messed up his roles.
Yeah,
and he messed up the lines, and everybody else is staying up. It's live, you can't do it. And he even said, "Man, it's live." They knew this was going to happen, and he comes back, and everybody is like trying to hold the role, and it's like you can't break, not because you don't want to break your character, because you could start that chain,
right?
And you get that avalanche of him laughing and laughing and laughing, and it doesn't come out of this, and it comes through around. What's the guy? Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx to play Django.
Eric Bishop. That's his real name. Jamie Foxx was playing George Jefferson. So go through, and so the first episode was the All in the Family, basically where it introduces George, and then the next episode I think was the pilot episode of the Jeffersons, where they hire Florence. And the exciting thing about that is they use Marla Gibbs, the same actress, who's 86 now, to play the role coming in.
Wow!
But they had all the sets, and they would slide across, and they would follow the actors, and the cameras would go around and everything. But you can see the difference, and you can tell Jamie Foxx hasn't done theater, or the only live performance he's had is as being the singer or comedy, where that's part of the process,
right?
But not in this. So it was really exciting to watch.
He had trouble staying in character.
Yeah, he had trouble staying. I mean, you would see, and I don't know if it was really his process, but it felt like watching it. He would do the walk.
Yeah,
he would throw the shoulders and the arms,
to
like
get
George
back into
Jefferson.
character.
And he did it. It's like when he lost the line, he like kind of
let me get back into George Jefferson,
and he walked right, and he did it. He walked back into it again, and you could see it felt like any time you thought he was going to lose it, he would do that to bring himself back into that moment. That was really interesting.
I think you have, well, like I said, 10 different minds. Like you have on top of the thing that you're supposed to be doing, 10 other things that are in your head, hitting your mark, whatever, all those things, and anytime that happens, like when I see people who are struggling with any kind of thing like that, believe it or not, it brings me back to Tom Cruise and Last Samurai, and the one thing that they talk about is too many mind. Like I try to tell myself that sometimes if there's something I'm trying to work on, I'm like, focus on the one thing. Don't let the other things intrude on the thing that you're supposed to be doing. Like, don't have too many mind. Just have the one mind. Everything else can wait. When you're having to do this thing, just focus on this, and then deal with the other things later.
And that's the thing. If you're so in that moment, then you can adjust. In Captain America: Civil War, Tony Stark goes to visit Peter Parker, and they're in the bedroom and everything. And so he's starting to, and this is all about the blocking, remember everything. And so he's coming across, and Tom Holland is sitting down there with his leg on the bed, and the blocking's set up where Tony's supposed to sit there. And he comes in and he pauses, and Tom Holland doesn't move his leg because he just forgot what's supposed to happen.
Right.
And he just naturally, Tony Stark's, I'm going to sit here, so you need to move your leg.
Yeah.
And so he moves the leg and he sits down. They continue
it becomes part of the thing. Yeah.
And it fits the moment. It fits the characters. It fits the scene to where I know what's supposed to be happening, Tony Stark, and Peter Parker. I'm new to all of this. I don't know what to do.
Wait, that wasn't part of the scene?
No.
It wasn't written.
It just was so natural.
Right.
Yeah. Because
it works.
You see a moment because he looks down and he's like waiting for him to move, and then he just says, like,
speaking of,
I'm going to sit here.
Which is why you don't stop rolling for stuff like that. And Kevin Hart, there was a scene that we were shooting, and physically there was something demanding of him to do, but he was just like, just keep rolling, and he just wanted to capture to capture all of it, because you don't know where the magic might happen while you're trying to get through it, even though you're not doing it as it was written, as it was done. Just keep it rolling, so that maybe what you're going to get is better than what you wrote in the first place. What were you going to say?
Oh no, I want to ask you a question, but we can't talk about it. So I'm just like,
well, I can tell you if we can talk about it or not.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure we can't.
Okay.
Given, I think what we're working on, the people that you are around, I think they probably do a shit ton of ad-libbing. So it's like,
and what you realize too is when you're working with stars like that,
especially with that particular group, I think it is.
Well,
in comedic shows,
especially with comedic shows, there's probably a ton of it. So like,
well, what I realized too, you talked about Josh Cadson. Yes, he's a director, but when you have people
Jake,
sorry,
and his dad,
Josh was his dad.
Yeah, Lawrence was
Lawrence Cadson.
Who's Josh?
There's a Josh that's a son of a director.
Oh, okay.
Or something.
All right. With Jake, yes. So obviously he's the guy who's in charge. But when you have people like...
he's a writer, too. Probably drove him a little crazy.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, as a writer, I'm pretty sure you're like, okay.
Well, I'll tell you who it drives crazy is the lady that's in charge of the script.
Yeah.
Because she's just losing her mind while she's like, yeah. So, and you see that too, because... but anyway, what I was going to say was you have people like The Rock and Kevin Hart when they're on set, and it's kind of...
Do they flow off each other a lot?
Oh, without a doubt. But, The Rock's also a producer of the thing, too, as well. So, it's a production company. Oh, yeah, he's got a production company. So he's part of producer. But it's obvious, okay, so you have the director, and there he is, and he's doing his job as a director. But you can tell that The Rock and Kevin Hart, they can do whatever they want. Yeah. Jake just goes, okay, all right, that's good, okay. And it's like,
that's why McQuarrie was asked back for his second Mission Impossible movie, because obviously Tom Cruise is the producer of all of those shows, which is the only way he can do those stunts. Because if he was not the producer,
they would not be letting him do that.
Because they would not insure him, and he's like, "Well, I don't care. This is my company. I'm going to do it."
Right.
And but McQuarrie, he had gotten him to help write, do a rewrite on Valkyrie. And so he's been familiar with him.
And then he worked with him also on Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow, which is where
they're doing another one now of that too.
Because that's the guy that he trusts.
His guy.
And McQuarrie now knows it's like, well, I'm going to write this. I'm going to direct. But if he wants to do something, we can work with it.
There's stuff as they've worked together more and more that's actually gotten better.
No, it's gotten better and better. A lot better. And it wasn't like it wasn't good to begin with.
It was.
Yeah. They were good, and they're getting much better.
No, I was going to say though, how about just completely off topic? How about Robert Downey Jr. slowly becoming Tony Stark now? Did you see the news?
Well, you were talking about that. This was an interesting thing. I watched him on the Actors Studio, and he was talking about his process. And he remembers his lines first. He goes all the way through. Then he writes down the first letter of each word, and then he goes and then remembers those going down. And he goes like the first letter of each line of all his dialogue, and he remembers this. And once he knows it, then he just throws it away, and he doesn't pay attention to it. And then when he comes up,
so it can be natural.
Then he's in the moment of doing that. And then also he said that now I know everything that's supposed to happen, where I start, what's in the middle, and where I get to. So if something happens, I know how I can work that into everything that's going on.
Well, I always want to compare that to DiCaprio when he smashes the skull and his hand bleeds, and it's not supposed to happen, but he keeps going.
He keeps going.
Everybody is there is like, oh my God.
He smears the blood in her face.
On Kerry Washington's face.
But what you're getting is real. Like they just keep going because he could have said, oh my God, I cut my hand. No, fuck it. They just keep going. and that's when you get the best stuff because it's genuine. Like
there has to be a moment in Iron Man 2 because when they're sitting inside the Randy's Donuts and Black Widow comes up, Tony says something which has to not be on the script or it wasn't so well because you see Scarlett Johansson smile, like the beginning of a smile, and bring it back down like that wasn't what was planned. I wasn't ready for that, and that was fantastic. And then you've just got to stay in the moment as who you are as opposed to what you are.
But that brings it back to Hader. Like I always felt like his goal on a lot of his things was let's see how much I can get everybody around me to break. Like with his Vincent Price, man, that stuff is fantastic. With like and you could tell that everybody around him is like, this guy's fucking crazy.
Well, that's what I like about Bill Hader the most is the fact that he seems genuine and he really actually wants everyone to laugh, and he himself thinks it's hilarious.
Yeah,
he thinks it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as he thinks it's funny, he's like, I know this is funny.
But seeing him play, a serious role with Barry, I mean, there's no comedic anything about that character, and he's dealing with a life of being fucked up in the head and trying to decide.
Talk about it. Do you watch Barry at all?
No, I'm familiar with that track.
Really? You haven't watched Barry?
Again, I don't know. Game of Thrones is the only reason I got HBO again.
They talk about the season finale. They were talking about the how it ended compared to how it started that season.
Right.
And you're just like, damn. They really are pretty... they're serious about it being serious. They have those comedic moments, but it's like...
Well, that's what Hank was. I mean, Hank was that... He's kind of funny.
Well, that's what I was talking about NoHo Hank. When I was talking about the scene when they're in the desert and he's giving them stuff, and every time you see Bill Hader turn his head, he's cracking up because that guy who's playing NoHo is fucking hilarious, and he's able to stay. Somehow he's able
keep
to
character,
deadpan the entire
especially with the accent,
the accent, everything. You're just like, how do you not? There's got to be outtakes of him dying.
Well, that's the comedy. You write it funny, but play it straight.
Yeah,
and you sell the seriousness of the moment, and then that's how you make it even more funny.
Yeah. Well, that's like if you ever watch. One of my first things to go and watch Will Ferrell like clips on YouTube of him. Just ad-libbing things, like especially the one he did was Eastbound and Down, where he's playing
the car
salesman,
bat fight,
and he's there just saying things, just trying to break them. He's purposely trying to break them.
But you know who he's channeling with that character. I mean, it's 100% obvious with the blonde hair who he's channeling. Yeah. Like I was just waiting for him to go, woo! I was waiting for it.
I mean, he had the white suit and the tie and everything,
and the hair and everything. When he finally goes to his plantation home,
sunglasses
with the cannons and everything. You're like, wait, what am I watching?
Right.
But love it.
That's what's good about Danny McBride is the possibilities are endless, and we're going to push it as far as we can. That's what I like about his stuff.
I'm just
North Carolina School of the Arts alum.
Yeah.
Along with Jody Conrad and I can never remember Michael Green was the other guy. The three of them,
the big guy.
The three of them came together. The director of the Seth, the cop movie, the mall cop movie, not Paul Blart one, the other one.
Oh, that dark ass movie.
Yes.
What was it called?
And also Pineapple Express. The director from.
Oh, he's that guy.
I think so. I think it's. Because I think that's where they had met on that.
Michael Green.
Something. It's a three name.
I'm thinking of the big black actor.
No. Michael Clark Duncan.
Michael Clark Duncan. Yeah.
As we look this up.
Right. I'm not even going to look. You guys are on top of it.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to find out what the cop.
I was going to say something about being on set. Now I lost it completely.
Oh, what were you going to say?
I forgot. We were talking about
Seth Rogen. That's his name, but it just doesn't sound like
Observe and Report.
Observe and Report.
That movie was dark.
Never saw it.
It's a comedy about
Seth Rogen
theory.
Comedy. David Gordon Green.
David Gordon Green
was wanting to become a cop, but he's also a mall cop, and
it was like
it takes a pretty dark. That movie can be made today. It was only made 10 years ago.
Yeah,
but no, it takes a pretty dark turn, especially with him as a character.
It's Joe Rogan's current popularity and famousness. Now, whenever I think Seth Rogen, I think that's not his last name because it can't be the
they're not related.
I know they're not, but it just can't even be the same.
Oh, Joe Rogan and Seth Rogen.
There can only be one Rogan.
It makes
there can only be one.
It makes me think that Seth Rogen is not. That's not.
Do
his
we
last
have
name.
a running streak right now of how many times there can only be one that's been uttered on.
Well, this is now 3 different shows.
Oh god.
Or there can only be one that's been uttered on this podcast.
I think it's been 4.
No, it's been 4 or 5 because I think Carl said about 20 times in the first few times.
He definitely did that because it was more germane to what we were.
Well, actually, when we're talking about credits, did you did you see Godzilla?
Yeah,
you saw it. What'd you think? You did because you told me you commented on my social media that you were going to go see it. What'd you think?
Yeah. As far as where we've gone with them so far, the best one yet.
You liked it?
Yeah. If not only just because of all the extra monsters, but visually, sure. I like the fact that they went down into Middle Earth and all that stuff, and all of that added some juice to it. But Mothra, man, whoo. That was
actually
awesome.
It looked fantastic.
Let's go and re-talk about Godzilla because I'm not going to be posting that.
Well, you guys have done it already?
Well, no,
we talked about
not exactly.
We recorded earlier, and I'm not going to be using that material.
Or we could just not talk about that, so that way nobody will know that we're not using it.
It
never happened.
No, that never happened. But no, we talked about it. That's not
my favorite part of the entire movie was the whole reveal of the middle world,
Middle Earth,
whatever was going on,
600 miles away from where we
all of the architecture, all of the whatever was living
down there
like before.
Atlantis.
Yeah,
like,
it was
entirely what they were going for there. Yeah,
but then see, my mind starts going like, hey, now we got a Godzilla Aquaman crossover, and then you have a nuclear bomb that fucking destroys the whole thing.
Well, Warner owns all of it, so they could actually theoretically do that if they wanted to.
I think we had heard separately that the director had wanted to go into that past and dealing with the first time Godzilla and
the origins of Godzilla origins.
I would love to see that movie.
Which may be the original ending of Godzilla saving us from him causes the sinking of Atlantis.
Right. Wow, mind blowing.
You're literally writing a movie right there. I want to see that movie.
Here's the pitch.
Take all my money because I want to see the prequel Godzilla movie. About the people worshiping them as gods.
Right, because it was the
that'd be really fucking cool.
Wall.
Granted, you're not really going to get the destruction porn.
Well, you will because Atlantis is going to
under the ocean.
But I want to see that movie now.
And,
why'd you have to put that idea in my head?
I totally want this now.
Fuck.
Well, you were probably thinking about it when you saw it too.
Oh my god! It's like whenever those are always like my favorite scenes of movie. In the Two Towers when they go across the lake and there's all the bodies in the lake. It's like, how did that happen?
What have you alluded to?
I want to see this.
Or like in the Two Towers when they're going by the statue.
Yes.
And you're like,
oh no, that's in the first one. In Fellowship of the Ring, the two giant on the water.
Statue,
it's like I want to know
built this.
Right? How did this get here? Yeah.
Like Rogue One, the Fallen Jedi. I want to know about
the Fallen Jedi Temple, and you want to see why that.
Right.
Why is that statue there?
Why is the ship there? What's going on? Like, no, tell us. No, but what I was gonna say is that what was I gonna say? Fuck. No,
the monsters.
The direction of this movie, I didn't like it as much as the direction for the original Godzilla, like the last 2014,
the most recent one.
The most recent, excuse me.
In this series,
Gareth Edwards' direction, because I didn't. What I really I keep talking about the size and scope. You get scale, and he presented it so well in that first one. You get a feeling for how fucking huge that lizard is, right? You don't get that feeling in this one.
Well,
you don't really get.
There were the Gareth Edwards one. He made sure that most of the point of view was from where the people were, either on the ground looking
or
up,
like in the Halo jump, which I always talk about.
But now you got monsters fighting monsters.
Well, you got monsters. So
now you're at the point of view of a monster to a monster.
But you never really get the scale for me. You never really get this. Like Godzilla seems smaller in this movie.
But this was one of the ones where I came away, and you always think about these things, especially in the superhero movies. This is one of the ones that I came away with the biggest feeling of how are we going to rebuild all this shit that they just tore up. Like you see it in other
they don't because you see I think he leaves there's such radiation that the body creates or that they are
I get it what I'm saying is as far as like any of those movies where things get destroyed like Superman, Batman, or cities get torn up, like I came away from it like, what about the human carnage,
casualty
that happened in this movie, man?
Kind of established that they evacuated Boston.
That was that, but there's still hundreds of thousands of people dying. But that's where it's a very good reason to why the military is like, no, we're just going to kill them. We're just going to kill them. We're not going to have them around because of the damage. Because Las Vegas is basically shuttered because we see the way that it's the last time.
Yeah, they don't ever reconstruct it because the radiation that these creatures.
Hawaii's got to be an entirely different size. That's what I did like is the little bit of a glance just to see. It's like, oh no, it's still a terrible, awful wreck
from before.
Was
it 10 years?
I think something about they're saying it's like
no, it's 5 years.
They're just doing the 5 years.
In movie time, it was 5 years.
Yeah, 5 year movie time. Basically, the same time from when the movie came out till now. It's been 5 years.
Okay.
But no, That's the one thing that people really did not like about the Man of Steel was all the destruction, chaos. Like,
well, that was a continuation with what had happened with Age of Ultron and everything.
Lots of
Age of Ultron answered because Age of Ultron came out after Man of Steel.
Civil War answered it. Age of Ultron came out, and then with the Man of Steel, they're going around. But it wasn't until Civil War where they did the Sokovia Accords. It's like, hey, you're causing all this damage and everybody's dying. What's going on?
Oh, no. I mean, basically, no, I was saying that Age of Ultron was kind of like the answer to the Man of Steel in the sense of that you see S.H.I.E.L.D. come in and rescue everyone with a helicarrier. Like, we're going to get everyone off the premises.
But they had no place to live.
Yeah, I know. I get that. They're now refugees. But what I'm saying is, like,
but again,
the Metropolis is getting completely destroyed, and you're like, okay.
And how many times has Metropolis actually been destroyed?
Well, and that's the thing. It wasn't like in the Marvel movies where it's like the buildings are destroyed, but still the regular infrastructure's there. That ending scene with him and Zod, everything's been pulverized to where it's like sand.
There's nothing there. That's what I mean. Like,
yeah.
And given how, granted, it's like his first time actually being a superhero in that movie, but he doesn't really take him off to space or take him somewhere else. But like, we can't. The casualties will be too great if we fight here right now. Like,
well, but this is one of the things that gets me though, and this is superhero physics, which of course doesn't exist. When they're flying and they punch each other, that makes sense that they're zooming off to whatever. But if they're just two guys that are essentially the same strength and they're standing and facing each other and punching it, it's significantly no different than either one of us standing in front of each other punching it. The only difference is that maybe when they get hit, it goes into the ground more or something. But they don't immediately go flying because just as strong to throw the punch is just as strong to receive the punch.
That's kind of like why I liked Spider-Man Homecoming. They actually introduced the agency that actually
damage control.
Damage control. They actually, because in this comic books you have damage control. In Marvel, they come in and fix all the chaos and wreckage that they have. And you're like, oh shit, they brought in damage control finally into the movie. So they established the fact that, listen, guys, everyone's taken care of after some of this destruction is happening. No, we fix everything. So.
I'm kind of looking forward to Spider-Man.
I'm very excited for Spider-Man. I'm really curious to see how they handle post Endgame because, I mean,
are you in depression about post Endgame? Or are you still?
I just don't. 22 movies in, I don't know what they're going to do now.
Right. Like, well, they got plenty planned.
They do. They there's been leaks.
You can have a lot of movies without Iron Man.
They've just leaked out. Oh, absolutely. But they just leaked out what they're probably going to be doing.
First, no, they have not leaked. There has been a leak of information.
Okay, excuse me. Thank you. There's been a leak of information of what the movies will be coming out.
And I think that's why. I think it was why
Marvel
Captain Marvel was so important for when they did it because she's going to be the catalyst of continuing on
in the cosmic side.
Yeah, on the cosmic side. But that's what they're saying. The rumor is that you're going to have basically a cosmic end, and then you're going to have the down to earth, local Earth end, and there's not going to be a whole lot of
which is eventually what would cause the new Avengers to come around. But that's where I think that it's a really good tease that we've seen in the trailers for Far From Home, to where Spider-Man feels the need to fill in or at least carry Tony
Stark,
to Iron Man to be the hero for the people, which would keep him more grounded.
Yeah.
And then that I never read Spider-Man for extended periods of time because when the Parker luck would hit him, everything goes wrong at one time, and it's like I'm trying to escape this. That's why I'm reading the comic books. But
you don't want to be. You don't even remind of how life is actually shitty.
But this way, he could still have positive things happening in his individual life. But he always feels that he can't live up to the Iron Man thing that he's putting upon him. So he can still have that. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Yet still have some happiness and success and continue forward. There can still be that thing, and I think that's a very clever way to do that because that's the reason individual Hulk movies fail, as we the viewer want to see the Hulk smash, but the entire time for Bruce Banner, if he becomes the Hulk, he's failed.
Right.
So you as the viewer feel that, but I want to see this, but this doesn't want it to happen, and so that's why it's harder to make that connect in the way those movies were done.
I don't really see the Hulk coming back too much more after Endgame, really, unless they just throw him in as a
antidotal,
a mentor or
something. Because does he stay Professor Hulk at this point?
He'll stay in that state from now on.
Yeah, this is the end of that story with him.
That sucks. I want a Hulk. I want Red Hulk. And I want Planet Hulk.
Well,
I want all the Hulks.
That could still happen, though, because, I mean, Ross still exists, and he could be upset.
Talk about a character that just brought back out of nowhere. Like, wait a second, 2 movies in a row. Or 3. No,
nowhere.
3 movies in a row. Yeah, he just brought him back. Like, oh shit, that whole movie was made. They actually remember. But fuck Betty Ross. She's out.
He was in the first scene that really was the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe when Tony Stark walks through the door and said, "Hey, we're trying to start a team."
Yeah, he's saying fire or what was he saying? He was taking shots.
Yeah.
I don't know if you read the article on it. I don't know if we talked about it or not, but I kind of found it interesting. I read something that said that pretty much Blade is what brought superhero movies.
That was like 98.
Back to cinema as a good thing.
Well, that was new. Was it New Line Cinema?
That was New Line,
and so that was the beginning of one of the contracts that Marvel had with other things, and it was like a $30 or $40 million movie that made, I think, 80 to 100. Because Blade 2 made more.
Yeah,
and that set up to where it's like, oh, this. But I mean, nobody.
Right.
I mean, obviously, we kind of knew that Blade was a comic book movie, but people just knew that as Wesley Snipes' vampire hunter.
Right. Wesley Snipes playing a kicky
a vampire hunter. And so it's like, we're gonna watch this. It's like, because the other thing around that time was Road to Perdition, which was based off of a graphic novel.
No one knew that.
No, Paul
unless you were a comic book person.
Yeah,
unless you were a comic book person.
Paul with Max Allan Collins, who wrote Dick Tracy on the daily strips for about 30 years. Or 20 plus years, and that was Paul Newman's last on-screen acting role and one of Daniel Craig's first acting roles.
Yeah.
And Paul Newman was nominated for an Oscar for that, and amongst the rest of the things.
No one actually talks about that.
No, and I mean, but again, Tank Girl in the 90s, Men in Black, also based on comic books. There was a lot of the non-traditional superhero ones that hit pretty big, or at least got a lot of
people were
publicity.
worn out.
Judge Dredd was a comic book movie.
Yeah, but that was not.
Dredd.
The second one. The second one was
the one that came out with Carl Urban.
Yeah, but still,
that movie's actually awesome.
Yeah, it's too dark. It was too dark.
It was The Raid.
But well, that's the problem. The Raid came out first.
Yeah. What was it?
And so leading into X-Men in 2000. But I mean, those were the ones that did the groundwork. But the one that Spider-Man in 2002 just exploded, and everyone's like, "Oh no, this is a thing now."
Yeah. Talking about Snipes, it made me think about. I don't know if you've been watching What We Do in the Shadows.
How is that?
It's
how much do you want me to tell you?
Fantastic.
No, I mean,
did you see the movie?
I love the movie.
Okay, if you love the movie, you will. Fantastic. Love the show.
It's on FX, right?
Yeah, it's on FX. Here's what
the first season's finished now.
Yeah. Here's what you have to forgive. I think that for the show, they added an American type relatable character.
Yes.
So that people who may not get the humor that was in the movie can still go, okay, no, but don't. It's fine because he's only in it for
the fuck over yourself.
I want the original, basically.
No,
it's not that at all.
There's only one,
but it's fantastic.
But this character is only in it enough to keep people who may not have seen the movie or may.
His description is like it's not nearly that bad. It is. Yeah. It works for what they're doing.
Fantastic.
Because they move it to Staten Island, which is fantastic. Oh, we're in New York. No, you're not in New York.
Yeah. But and believe me, I love that movie, and we'll get to Snipes in a second because I brought that up. But let me go back. Yeah, I know there's too many thoughts. There's too many thoughts.
It's hard to stay on track sometimes.
But here's the thing. At the Mad Monster 2 years ago, Mad Monster Con, they had 3 of the people here that were involved in What We Do in the Shadows, and that was one of the reasons that I wanted to go. 2 of the actors. And one that was costumes because he came because the old vampire, did a photo op.
The Nosferatu one,
the Nosferatu, in makeup. So I did not know. No, listen.
I'm sorry.
It's just the look of that.
I also,
which was amazing, and they did it.
Spoiler alert! I also just remembered what they did with that character in the movie. It just made me laugh.
Yeah. So that was the year that I had done the Morton Joe outfit, and I wore it to Mad Monster. Unbeknownst to me, I loved the movie What We Do in the Shadows. I wanted to meet those guys, so I was in costume, and I go up, and the guy who did costumes for What We Do in the Shadows is like, "Oh my God, that's a really good cosplay." He said, "I did the costume for Morton Joe."
Did he really?
And I didn't know that.
That's amazing.
New Zealand.
Yeah.
So, that's how
Yeah, because that movie was filmed in Australia, right?
No, that was shot in Namibia, but I think a lot of George Miller is Australian, and so probably a lot of the crew
was
from New Zealand, Australia.
Yeah.
So the guy who did the costume for the Nosferatu vampire did the costume for Immortan Joe.
Because that would have been in Wellington.
And he was like, "Can I get my picture with you?"
That's awesome.
And I was like, yeah, sure.
Fuck yeah,
and he
dude.
was he was completely excited that there was a guy who did an Immortan Joe cosplay, and he's the one who created the costume.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah. So
it
anyway,
kind of circles back to what you were talking about, people getting excited, you getting excited, and everything like that.
Well, especially if it's the person who did
it. That's even.
Yeah. If
that's
he goes,
awesome.
wow, that's a great cosplay. But going back to Snipes, I mean,
it's since you already know this, there's a scene that involves something happens and they have to go to the vampire council. Yeah, like for a trial, and so they get all of these famous vampires. They got the actors that played these characters.
I'm sorry you haven't watched it because you need to watch from day one to the beginning. Because
Wesley Snipes is Blade in this thing.
But the cool thing is he calls in on Skype. He's not even, and the connection's not good. So it's like, dude. Okay, hey, but on top of that,
and that's not even the series finale. The season finale.
Harmon.
Yeah,
Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah,
I was
Buffy.
like, "Are you kidding me?" Like all
they brought him from Buffy.
Of course,
it's a vampire from Buffy.
This is why you haven't. This is why you have to watch it. Don't just watch that episode. You've got to watch
I'll watch the entire series
because honestly, I feel like
it's on FX
each
now,
episode,
sure.
each episode got better than the one before.
Yes,
is it better than the movie?
Huh?
Is it better than a movie?
But you can't compare
Jermaine
the
Clinton,
two.
Taika Waititi aren't in it, so it's not like
you can't compare
those people are
Do
better
they bring
than
back the
them.
werewolves?
Of course. Well, I mean,
I'm sure it's going to get. Well, they're doing
Not
a
in that way.
series.
They're doing a werewolf series,
yes.
right? Yeah, I read about something about that because I thought that was one of my favorite scenes in the movie. The werewolves.
get past comparing. Number
Are we
one,
swearwolves?
swearwolves? We're not the swearwolves.
I'm trying to get past the movie. I just
watch it as an autonomous thing that you enjoy.
The whole
comedy and
shtick,
vampires,
the whole concept,
and
is
the
what
idea
I
that
love.
it's a mockumentary. And
that's what I love mockumentary comedy shows, anyways. So like, I'll
it's
definitely
still-
So
it's
just
still-
go with that without trying to compare it to the movie. But in my feeling, like I of course I was skeptical in the beginning because I love the movie so much. I was like, there's absolutely, I'm going to give it a chance, but there's absolutely no way they can make it the way they did the movie. And the first couple episodes, you're like, okay, I can stick with this. But then it gets better and better. And I think
takes off.
Yeah,
I think the writing
all
gets
10
better.
episodes are on it.
I think the writing gets better. I think just the whole premise of where. In fact, I think they wrote it the first few. Like he's like looking at the synopsis. Are you looking at the synopsis
I'm
of
just
other?
reading the title, so I know what they're about.
Yeah. And it reminds you exactly what happened. But I think maybe they wrote the first few to draw people in and then hook them, because that's how it feels. It feels like we're going to introduce you to this, or we're going to go easy, and then it just gets fucking crazier and crazier and crazier and funnier and funnier and funnier.
Yes, yeah.
But with the council, I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is the best shit ever."
And they just kept going, and it's not like there's 3 or 4. There are
a lot. Yeah.
Please tell me Gary Oldman shows up.
That'd have been cool, but
if they brought in Gary Oldman as Dracula,
right,
oh shit!
Yeah. But just watch. Just
I'll check it out.
Yeah, if you enjoyed the movie, look at it as another side. Don't compare it to the movie. Just look at it as its own
It's
thing.
ridiculously.
I've been
crazy.
preaching and telling everyone to watch that movie since the first time I saw
Me
it.
too.
Well, I mean,
Me too. Especially if you like vampires.
And singing its praises.
Well,
And
and
if
Clement
you-
and Waititi are involved in this, so it's not like they just said, "Here's the money, give me the
Right.
money, and you go do." What
They
you
are
want."
involved?
They're involved.
Yeah, they're involved. Yeah, in the writing, but not everybody gets that kind of humor. That's the thing. Is and if you enjoyed Flight of the Conchords, you would get it.
Yeah.
But not everybody gets it, and I think that's why I feel like they dumbed down a little bit the first few episodes.
They made it connect.
Yeah, so that people could, if they had, because I'm sure that most people who watch it probably didn't see the movie. The movie didn't get huge viewership. So here you have a channel FX that has really good shows on it, like Walking Dead, whatever. Not Walking Dead, but other shows that people watch. So you want to not.
Legion.
Well, and the You're the Worst just finished as this was starting, so
Atlanta.
they were pushing that on, and so
No, I just think of all the shows that FX. FX kind of started with S.H.I.E.L.D. when they were kind of like.
Yeah.
Well,
and
what was the other one?
the trial one with Glenn Close.
And Sons of Anarchy.
That was the
No.
Yeah, FX was Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
But there was the Glenn Close was on the season of The Shield, and she took that, and then she had her own series for about 4 or 5 years that Rose Byrne was on, and then that was on, and then everything's, and then Nip Tuck were the beginning ones.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about channels that are, trying to keep an audience and capture an audience, I think that's why HBO was pushing all of the things they had coming up on those last couple of episodes of Game of Thrones, because
people are going to cancel HBO.
Everybody was talking about canceling, and that's why I even posted on my Facebook things that don't cancel your HBO just yet. Keep it till August.
I know. I've always watched HBO shows, so like I had no issues with keeping HBO. Is that
right? But that's the only. I mean, back in the day, you watched HBO because that's where you could watch movies right after they were in the theater. And until HBO's
Sopranos.
like now, until Sopranos. The only reason to have HBO now is because of the original shows. I mean, who cares about the movies?
You can get those anywhere else.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it's the original shows.
I watch it for the original shows primarily.
I mean, Netflix too. I mean, Netflix is
and the sports stuff. HBO does a lot of good documentaries and sports and miniseries. I mean, Chernobyl was amazing. So
which I haven't watched yet, but it's
definitely gonna watch it.
It's five 1 hour episodes.
Miniseries.
5 1 hour episodes.
But it's a BBC production, so it kind of throws you off. Like, wait a second, why do all these Russians have English accents? Right. And a few people have complained about.
I have an autographed poster by Jared Harris, which is amazing.
For Chernobyl?
From Mad Men.
From Mad Men.
And I walked because we're going through the set, and it's like, oh, that's his office, and Lane's office, and then it's like we have to walk in and look behind the door, and it's like that's where he was.
Yep.
And it was
spoiler alert.
And it's funny though because they used it as if it was a real office. It's like nobody took it over. They used it as storage. So they had boxes in there that people's like, we're not using this. This is going to be a storage office now.
Oh man. Huh.
What else?
Yeah,
well, the next week is the 37th.
Heroes Con,
which is the largest independently owned comic book convention, focusing mostly on comics. They've got a lot of artists and writers, and they're all 3 halls at the convention center.
As opposed to they only used
through 2012, it was only the one hall, A, and normally it was next to the Dub Show.
Right.
It was at the same weekend as that.
Right.
And then they extended from 2013 and 2014, and I think just 2 years for halls A and B, and then they've gone around to including C. And C is where the cosplay stage
so
is
it's
set
the
up.
same. Okay,
it's the same setup as the last couple of years.
Oh, actually, you know what? Random thought. Did you see that DC Warner is not going to be at Comic-Con?
Yes, which is what pushed Patty Jenkins to release the image for Wonder Woman.
That must be why she released that yesterday.
She had said, we're not going to be there, but we want to tell you about it as quickly as we can. But they're apparently not being allowed to tell too much just yet.
Yeah, that movie comes out next year?
It was supposed to be this year. No, it was supposed to be this summer, and then it got pushed back.
Yeah.
And I can't. Maybe early next spring at this point.
Yeah.
They've moved it like 2 or 3 times.
So I don't know if you know this about me either. It's more Charlotte knowledge, but speaking on Heroes Con, I worked for Shelton years and years ago
at the convention or at one of the stores.
I managed for
Was it when the Central Avenue at the square
on the corner when it was at the Central and the Plaza when the store was on that corner spot that's now been broken up into
was it the so it was the smaller one where the yogurt shop, or the bigger one where the books
the bigger one,
so he had 2 locations on that turn.
Okay. Well, that smaller location became the warehouse.
Yes.
So that's I worked for Shelton, and then we had a store at Carmel Commons that was a smaller store.
I remember that one for a little while.
I ran that one for a while. I only worked for Shelton for maybe, I'm going to say 2 or 3 years. My brother, who was 4 years younger than me, did about 6 to 8 years.
Oh, wow.
And my brother actually drove the white van from Charlotte to California for the very first time that Heroes had a San Diego
booth in San Diego.
Yeah, the first year they did that, he drove across the country, and he must have been 19 or 20.
Oh, wow.
No shit.
Yeah, this is whatever year, early 90 something, 91, 92, whatever the first year was that Heroes was in San Diego. And it was just one regular white delivery van full of comic books. That's what they did.
2,600 miles across the country.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, he did. He worked for him for several years, more than I did.
He probably was close to whenever Matt Fraction was working there, or at least when he was a customer. Matt Fraction moved from Kansas City area to the Charlotte area, I think in junior high school, and he worked at the store. I think it was in high school.
What years?
And well, he's around our age. Well, he's a little younger than us, maybe about 3 or 4 years.
So, mid-90s?
Yeah, I think so, like around that.
How did I not know he was in the Charlotte area?
Yeah, well, because you're not actually a real comic book fan. You buy slabs.
No.
And you're also not from Charlotte.
Originally, I'm not from Charlotte. No.
But
how many years have you lived here?
He worked at the store.
I moved here in 97. So I've been here for 22 years.
Okay.
I mean, you're getting close enough to be.
Right. Yeah.
I tell people in Fort Mill I moved there in the 5th grade, and it's like I still don't feel like a local the way that they treat people.
Yeah. Well, you got to have generations.
Oh my God, it's so weird.
Yeah. If your grandpa's grandpa doesn't know each other,
doesn't know it, then you don't count. But he worked at the store, and he was actually like his convention guy. He'd go with them in the vans to the conventions and everything.
I would imagine I'd probably recognize him if I saw his face. I just don't know the name.
And obviously it was a different name then because that's his professional writing name now.
Okay.
Matt's the same. The fraction is different. And but yeah, no, he was an employee at the store for a while, and he'll be back at the convention next week. He's married to Kelly Sue DeConnick, who was in the Captain Marvel movie.
Okay.
That movie was based off of most of her version of writing it over a few years ago. But when they go through the
relaunch, right?
When Carol goes into the Los Angeles subway, and as soon as you get like her POV looking for the character, there's a woman with red hair and glasses that walks right across from her right. That's Kelly Sue DeConnick.
Oh, when she gets that person confused with the.
No, that's right before. Yeah, right before she goes on with the old woman as the Skrull, and it's literally when I watch the movie, I actually like as pointing at the screen. Right. It's like nobody knows who that is.
That's what we imagined is going to happen, like in December.
With the trailer.
Well, it would be cool if you do see me in the trailer. But in December, I know I was in about 5 different scenes, so I know because of where I was placed that you're going to see me. And like if
having gone from the first movie to the second one, you're very attuned to blocking and camera angles.
Yeah. Well, and
he's learning.
That's another thing that comes with being on set when TV or movies. Like you know if you're on camera or not, and you definitely know how much because they make sure that they're getting what they want in the place that they're going to be shooting.
Yes.
So if you're going to be there or not. And the cool thing for me was like it's another one of those situations where because I am so noticeable and character-y, I guess, the first AD pulled me up. And one of the first scenes that we did, he said, "Hey, I want you right here," and he put me right next to the main bad guy character. And from then on, for every scene we shot, that's where I was.
Right,
that was my.
So place. You're definitely going to be in it.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Chances are good,
unless the person that's editing is a dick.
There's no way.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. There's no way you're going to be out.
Yeah, and I think, and two, I kind of started to realize that I'm like the perfect height for big guy who's not too big, because 6'3" and my build and everything on screen is very big and intimidating looking, but not for the character I was standing next to. He was bigger than me, so you don't want to have that kind of disparity between the big guy and then another guy next to him who's just not big at all. You want to have him look, so there's a couple guys that are my size that are next to the main bad guy who's still bigger than us.
Right.
But I'm realizing that I'm a good, big, intimidating guy that's not too big.
You're right in the height to where you can be in a lot of different scenes.
Yeah.
Because with some of the actors who aren't as tall, then you can look much more towering if need be.
If they need that, yeah.
And if you need, it's like, we need to fit in with a bunch of big guys, but not so much bigger. Then it's like, no, we got the guy. This is the height.
Yeah. Well, like I said before, they don't want you to take away from what they were intending for people to see.
Right.
But they want to complement it. And not make it so obvious that, that guy's really tiny. He's supposed to be a big guy. He's really tiny right next to that bad guy. Everything has to be complimentary. But I don't know. For whatever reason, when you're in a group of people, they're all kind of dressed the same and kind of are all a group of bad guys. And the assistant director goes, "Hey, you come here, and you stand right here." That's, to me, that's something.
That's a win. I mean, that's something that's
you stuck out.
And ADs have been doing it for a while, because in order to get to an 81 in a film position, they've done
the steps just like the actors,
and they have to do it in the same similar way. Like they get up to being the top of the one version, but to get to the next level, you got to go all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
It's literally climbing the stairs. You're at the bottom of flight. You're at the top, but then to get to the next floor, you got to be at the bottom of the next flight.
Yeah, and I have appreciation when you're on set on movies and TVs, and I have appreciation for every single person that's there doing what they're doing, because I know that in the same way they have the aspiration to be the guy in charge, but they know that they have to do this grunt work first. And it makes me appreciate every time I see any of that. It makes me appreciate every piece of what happens in the end, even though I don't get to see the post. I'm not I have nothing to do with the post. I don't know how any of the post works, but as far as the actual physical, on set stuff, I appreciate every single person, even the guy that's putting the tape on the floor. I mean, I know that he's there and he wants to do his job well, but I know he's there because that's not his end game. That's not his goal. His goal is to do, to be the guy who's in charge of those guys.
And that's one of the things that I spent a lot of time in between talking to the people, like, what do you do? What's the responsibility? And the AC, the assistant camera operator, he had gotten more or less to the top of that version. And so from there, you can become a cinematographer. But if you do that, you're at the bottom of the situation. Yeah. But where he was as the AC, he would get to cinematographers would call him, and then in the negotiation of figuring out, he could say, well, I want to choose my crew. So he get to choose the AC2, the AC3, and the rest of the people. Right. And so it's like, I kind of like where I am because I have some autonomy in who I work with. And I'm known well enough that cinematographers will call and say, hey, we want you to work on this. So it wasn't a struggle to get from work. So he was at that point to where, do I want to drop back to the bottom and work up just because I want to do this, or do I like the kind of control and influence that I have with the people I can work with? And his AC2 had grown up with him, and they started as an AC3 with that, and so started bringing him up. So it's a really interesting ecosystem and how they grow up and become and add on to where they are.
Well, it's kind of funny too on the end of stunt work, because there was a lot of stunts in the thing that I did, and I was hearing stories from other people on set that Jack's actual stunt guy, not his stand-in, but his stunt guy, has been his stunt guy for years, and he does look just like him. Like without a glance, you would think he was him, but that's why you get. I have an appreciation for everybody in their craft because they worked hard to get where they are, and I understand that, and I don't mind putting in the footwork. Like everything I do, I try to learn something from it, and I feel like, and I hope that it's going to lead to something else. There's no guarantees for any of that.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming. Actually,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I've been
actually knowing you guys in real life made it even easier and more fun.
Absolutely. Well, definitely, I would definitely want to have you back. So
I have free time right now. That could change with an email.
You never know. You probably just got one. You have no idea.
Maybe.
Anything you want to plug, or anything you want to go ahead and...
Well, definitely in December, because both of these two things we can't officially talk about. We should be able to talk about.
Well, anything previous that you'd like to plug? You already kind of plugged a few things. But...
No, I think everything that I've done previously, if you haven't seen it, it's very little. But
you blowed up real good.
Blowed up, yeah, that's what everybody says. There you go, RBG, blow you up. You got blowed up. August is the show I'm working on now. Starts on HBO, and you stick with it. It's a character who's had HBO shows before. Stick with it. You'll see me eventually. I know that. And then December obviously is a blockbuster movie coming out. You'll definitely see me in. And then from there, I don't know what else is going to happen.
Any DJing plugs you want to do? Come see me at that.
I don't know if this is
Paychecks.
I don't know if this is the place. If this is the place for that, but I've been DJing in Charlotte since I was 20-something years old. It's kind of easy to
find.
The
Pterodactyl Club. It's like that tells you how far you've been here.
Well, he wasn't here.
I had no idea what that was.
Well, that club was there for 10 years, 87 to 97.
I moved here in 97.
Yeah, so I DJ'd the opening, and I DJ'd the last time that building was open. It changed names the last year it was open to Go Cat Go, and I did a New Year's Eve party, and that was the last night it was open. 97 New Year's.
I remember the reopen under that name.
Yeah, I think it was because there was a shooting in the parking lot.
That would be the reason.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, it happens in Charlotte.
Anyways, guys, thank you for listening. This is Simon Says Pop, or special edition. Anyways, you all have a great day. Yeah.